All right, I'd like to call the April 6th meeting to order. And please stand if you can and join us. Councilor Cordero will lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Mrs. Senator, roll call, please.
Councillor Olet? Councillor Pendleton?
Present.
Councillor Cordero?
Here.
Deputy Mayor Paterna?
Here.
Mayor Zimmerman?
Here.
Councillor Delnicki? Here. Councillor Fitzgerald? Here. Councillor King? Here. Councillor Balboni?
Thank you very much. We're up to item 4, which is mayor's remarks. And I just have two things to cover tonight. The first one is I wanted to thank everybody who was involved in the recent Mayor's Forum on Business Development, especially Deputy Mayor Paterna, Town Manager Mr. Maniscalco, the Clerk of the Council Mrs. Senath, and other town staff who helped get everything organized. All of our town leaders in attendance, which included our State Senator, the Town Council, Board of Education, Planning and Zoning Commission members, EDC, our town treasurer, and a number of other people. Special thanks to the members of the public who attended and the following members of our very knowledgeable panel. Again, our town manager, Mr. Maniscalco, Jay Williams from Hartford Gives Foundation, Karen Johnson from Brand Street Properties, which are the owners of Evergreen Walk, Lillian Serrano Rojas from the Chamber of Commerce, Aaron Smith from Advanced CT, David Griggs from Metro Hartford Alliance, and Kim Bishop from the Capital Region of Governments. In addition, I just wanted to talk for a minute about the budget process, just to remind people. We're voting on the budget, I believe it's May 4th. Between now and then, I believe we have 10 meetings when you include work sessions and public meetings. You know, I know everybody understands that it's going to be a difficult budget process. I just do want to remind people, right now I think we're at 697% tax increase, which was the total town budget that the town manager brought us, understanding that the council would most likely do something to that budget. If we wanted to cut it by 1%, that would be either spending reductions or revenue increases of approximately $1.35 million. I know that I'm just one of the minimum of 5 people that we need to vote yes on the budget, but ultimately as mayor, I'm going to bear a good part of the responsibility. Just speaking for myself, I know that we're looking for spending cuts, we're looking for revenue increases, understanding that the budget's going to affect a number of people in town. So having said that, I'm going to turn to the Deputy Mayor for the adoption of the agenda for tonight's meeting.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to move that we adopt the agenda as presented with the following changes. If you turn to the last page under executive session. So item A, pursuant to Connecticut General Statutes 1-206E, discussion of the Buckland Gateway project. I'd like to delete that since the town council has already met with the developer and the town manager and has all the facts on that. B, pursuant to Connecticut General Statutes 1-206A, discussion town attorney RFP candidates, that will remain in executive session. And item C, pursuant to Connecticut General Statutes 1-206B, discussion pending claims or pending litigation of Madison versus the town of South Windsor, that will remain.
13.
And then I'd like to move that up to item 13. Would it be A or?
You'd move it up after 7. 13L.
All right, 13L.
Oh, pointing of order, Mr. Mayor, what is he moving? Both
Just,
Oh,
seven-
the executive session, I'm sorry.
17B and 17C? Are you moving both?
no,
No.
you're moving 13L, not the
Yeah.
executive sessions.
Oh, I'm sorry, I'm completely confused. So executive session stays where it is
Okay.
with those amendments. And then item 13L, which is the item regarding the tax abatement with Buckland Gateway. We'd move that up right after public input.
Councilor Denneke?
May I ask the reasons why of moving a resolution up and not just keep it where it is?
Well, I thought after the public hearing, we'd get a lot of input from people, and at that point, we could go on to voting for this motion.
Councilor Let?
This is Councilor Roulette. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. All right, I thought you just said we're canceling that. I could have sworn I just heard you said we were canceling.
Canceling the executive session that discusses it, but the resolution stays. Right.
Okay.
But we had an executive session with the developer once already.
Right, and just to add a little context, this was my recommendation, and my thought was that after, the public will have an opportunity to talk about it, and I'd like to discuss that and vote on it while we still have a room full of people and we still have people watching at home. If we keep it to the end of the meeting, quite honestly, it's gonna be sometime between 9 and 10 o'clock before we get there. There may be something else that people are doing, and I think this is important enough for us to actually, do it early enough in the meeting so everybody's fresh, but also other people might be watching.
Okay, just for clarification.
Councilor Denneke, go ahead.
Sorry,
Yep.
thank you. So we're not going to discuss it any further in executive session?
That would be the thought, yeah.
Because when I saw it on here, I thought we were going to discuss it and then come out and move the resolution, or move the executive session up for the Buckland Gateway. That was my impression when it was put on the agenda during the agenda meeting.
Mr. Mayor? Well, I thought essentially we had that executive session with the developer and the town manager, and I'm not sure if there's any other new information that we would have at this point. That's why I'm saying delete that section of the executive session.
Well, it may not need more information, but I think a discussion with the town councilors to see where we are. That was why I was under the impression during the agenda meeting again that we were going to move the executive session up.
I mean, Councilor Denneke, if the deputy mayor is willing, I have no trouble putting them both up, but I would do that after the public hearing. So as soon as the 8 o'clock public hearing is over, we could go into executive session.
Regarding 17A?
13L. We could do that right after the public hearing, and then do 13L after that, if that's what you'd like.
Well, I was thinking of keeping 17A as an executive session.
Right, but what I'm saying is, if you don't like our original approach, we could have the executive session after the public hearing, right? And then do 13L when we come out of executive session.
Okay, so we're
Which
going
would
to,
still be earlier in the meeting, it wouldn't be at the end.
okay, so we'll put 17A back on.
17A would be after the 8 o'clock. So the problem is, we don't know, well, but it would be, yeah, it would be right after the 8 o'clock public hearing. And
Okay.
13L would be after that.
Coming out, okay.
Is everybody okay with that?
Yes.
You okay? Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Counselor, my fault.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, Councilor Fitzgerald. We've already had 2 executive sessions to discuss this, so we've already discussed it as a body twice in executive session. I don't see the need for a 3rd executive session. I think if we're having a conversation about this, the public should hear what we all think and what we have to say. So I would object to keeping it on executive session.
Counselor Lett.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mike Willett. So if there were meetings that took place between the time that we met and a vote is going to take place, we should learn what was discussed in those meetings because there may be new information. And if we get in the executive session and somebody says there's no new information or nothing was discussed, we turn around, walk out, and come back in here.
Well, sorry, Mr. Mayor.
Yep, go ahead,
If
Councilor
there's no
Fitzgerald.
new information, can't that just be said right here and right now? I mean, if there is new information, then someone can say there's new information that we need to discuss in executive session. If there isn't new information, then we should just have it as a public conversation. We've had 2 executive sessions on this already.
Right, did I miss one executive session?
Councilor
I'm
Cordero.
sorry, thank you, Councilor Cordero. Our last council meeting, we had an executive session about it. Was there one after that I missed? Before that? We didn't go any, discussion was not in great length, so I'm not sure we're done discussing about it.
All right, I've lost control at the beginning of the meeting. Deputy Member Turner, make a motion and we're going to vote one way or the other. So it's your choice.
Okay. I'd like to make a motion that we accept the agenda as it's presented with the change of an executive session. We will delete item A, which is a discussion of the Buckland Gateway, since we've had 2 meetings already in executive session. Item B and C will remain in executive session. And then we will move item (13L) up to right after public input.
All right, is there a second? All right, all those in favor? Aye. Anybody opposed?
Aye.
All right, roll call, please.
Excuse me, before you do the roll call, point of clarification. I don't want to prolong this any longer than it needs to be. However, I do just want to make sure that we understand that even in moving 13L up to right after public opinion, we still are going to be discussing, we're not taking a vote until we discuss it. I mean, it's a resolution, but we still discuss even if a motion is made for the resolution, correct? Just for clarification's sake, so we're still talking about it, we're just happen to be talking about it out
We're
here.
having a public
instead of in
conversation.
the closet.
Yes, yes.
Okay.
All right, Mrs. Senator.
Just point of clarification, thank
Roll
you.
call, please.
Okay, Counselor Roulette? Counselor Pendleton?
Yes.
Counselor Cordero?
No.
Deputy Mayor Paterna?
Yes.
Mayor Zimmerman?
Yes.
Counselor Delnicki?
No?
Counselor Fitzgerald? Yes. Counselor King? Yes. All right. 5 yeses, 3 nos.
Okay. All right, we're on to item 6, communication reports from the town manager, Mr. Maniscalco.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. As you had requested, Chief Lindstrom is here to talk about the flock camera systems, and I'm going to yield my time over to him for this period of time.
Good evening, everyone. Mr. Mayor, members of the council, it's nice to see you again. I know you're busy this time of year. The manager asked me to come and report on our automated license plate readers. There's been a lot of misinformation in the media and misinformation online, misinformation that's word of mouth. And what I want to do is come and share with you what is accurate as we know it and what we're doing. So the town of South Windsor currently uses Flock Security as a private company. And we utilize Flock Security's license plate reader system. They have a lot of different products within their product line. The one and only that we use is what they call LPRs, or license plate readers. We have 4 bi-directional locations in town where we have these scanners. So really 4 locations scanning the roadway in 2 different directions. We have had them operational for, it'll be a year later this month, later in April. So for all intents and purposes, 11 full months. We've had a lot of success stories. We have kind of ridden the wave of this this new system that's out there, how it interfaces with other agencies, our own policies, the public's feelings about it. I know that a couple weeks ago, a gentleman from the public was here and spoke on Flock, and quite frankly, there was a lot of misinformation that was given to you folks. I know you're not in a position of public comment to ask questions or to reply, but I want to put some of those myths to rest tonight. The license plate readers that we use are, I won't even say legally defensible, because we're not constructing a defense. There is court precedent that's out there that says that what they're doing is legal. It's not a violation of the Fourth Amendment. They are static license plate readers. They're just taking pictures of the backs of cars. And how that isn't a Fourth Amendment issue is because there is no expectation of privacy to the license plate that's hung on the rear of your vehicle in a public roadway. And that's where these scanners are. So they passively take pictures of cars that go by. The data that they hold, those photos, is stored for 30 days. That's our data, the Town of South Windsor's data, housed on Flock's cloud hardware software. That data is held for 30 days unless we specify for a particular investigative reason that one of those things be maintained longer. I think the easiest way to explain it is to kind of give you a scenario. Here's how it works. All of our officers have been trained in using it. They have Flock accounts. They log in with their own credentials, so if they're making queries in the system, it can be drilled down to a specific officer, what he or she is looking for, when they looked for it, and why they were looking. So let's say tonight there's a domestic at 8:30, and the suspect in that domestic flees the scene. There's going to be 3 people working plus a supervisor, 4 people working plus a supervisor on evenings. 3 of them, the supervisor and 2 district officers, will respond to the scene. That leaves 2 more people out there, maybe 3, depending on who's around, to look for this car that left. What we can do is we can check Flock cameras. We call them cameras. They're not doing any video. It's a static photo. We can check Flock cameras. We can check our own, and we can check neighboring towns who've given us permission to utilize their cameras, as well as private companies and private condo associations who've also given us permission to utilize their cameras. So we can query the system to see if that license plate or a vehicle description has passed by one of those scanners. So then we know, okay, that vehicle went to East Windsor, or that vehicle went to Manchester, or that vehicle hasn't passed any, so maybe it's still close by. It helps us saturate areas for investigative purposes. Flock does not take any pictures of people. You've been told otherwise. It does not. It does not track anybody. You've been told otherwise. I'm telling you, it does not track people. It doesn't track cars, okay? Officers, let's say they put that domestic violence plate that they're interested in as a plate of interest into the system, and they don't get any hits on it that night, they can create what they call a hot list, and that way if that plate, they'll put that plate on their own hot list. If that plate passes one of these scanners in the next 30 days, or as long as that is active on a hot list, the officer will get an alert. And it may say, plate just passed a scanner in Newington. It might say, plate just passed a scanner in South Windsor. Or it might say, plate just passed a scanner anywhere else where they have them. And that alert then is given to the officer with a picture. There are a lot of different scenarios that we can use. We can give partial plates. So a lot of times witnesses will say, I'm pretty sure the first 3 letters were ABC, but I don't know the 3 numbers. Okay, we can put that into the system. And they say, but I know it was a black Chevy Tahoe. Perfect. We can put that into the system, black Chevy Tahoe, ABC, something, something, something. And then in proximity to that incident, maybe a car goes by, and all we get is a picture of the plate. But now we have a full plate. Now we can go to other systems, computer systems that we have, and work on that plate, see who owns it. Is there a connection? Does it come back out of Torrington and has no affiliation with South Windsor? Or does it come back out of 1540 Sullivan Avenue and has an affiliation with South Windsor? People think that it's tracking and identifying people and who people congregate with and where people go. It does not. There are far more cameras in this community that do that stuff that aren't government owned. Walk into CVS, there's cameras everywhere. You walk into Target, there's a phenomenal camera system in Target. with Zoom capabilities that make our technology look silly. So the tracking issues, I think, are null. There aren't any. To give you an idea of where we're at and how the deputy chief and I make these decisions, everything that we do, and one of the hardest things I've said since I became chief, one of the hardest things for us to do is to defend the good work we do without sounding defensive. And what we always do is we always measure what we're doing against our mission statement. And the mission statement isn't Chris Lindstrom's idea, it goes back well before my arrival. And of the 8 tenets of our mission statement, 3 that I think are germane to this topic are A, being responsive to the public's needs. I think the public, when they have their cars stolen, or they're the victim of a crime, or they have a gun pulled on them in the parking lot at Target, I think we have an obligation to be responsive to their need to have us solve that crime. 2 is to be respectful of the rights of individuals. Not only am I the chief of police, but I'm also a husband, I'm a father of 2 kids, I'm a son, I'm a brother, and among my network of loved ones, I also enjoy the privileges afforded to me under the Bill of Rights and the Fourth Amendment. And I too am not willing to waive those, right? And this is not what that system is doing. Don't let anyone mislead you, okay? The 3rd tenet is keeping the department modern. We would be remiss, we would be antiquated, we would be inefficient, and we would be slowed down if we didn't capitalize on this technology. This technology makes us safer, it makes us more efficient in recovering stolen property, it makes us more efficient in holding suspects accountable. Flock does nothing other than take a picture. It's then left to the skill set of our investigators to go and piece things together. Okay, again, you've been told that it tracks and it's a mass surveillance system. That's not true. And I'm happy to have a conversation with anybody who thinks that. It's a patently false information. Just to give you a little bit of scope, the system is easily searchable. In the 11 months that we've had it up and running, we've had about, some of these are overlapping cases, we've had about 70 successful uses. We've had 3 family violence suspects apprehended as a direct result of flock hits. We've had about 5 weapons seized because of flock hits. We've had about 12 stolen cars recovered. We've had 3 armed robberies that we've investigated and have solved to some length, some degree or another. Some of these have active warrants that are being submitted. We have intervened and stopped 7 suicidal people. We found 2 missing people. And we've successfully investigated 22 burglaries or larcenies. Very, very useful in the Buckland district with retail theft, very useful in the Route 5 corridor with whatever you see, okay? And it's not just our cameras. For people, they'd be willing to have a small share of their tax dollars go to that small line item out of our about $10 million budget. We'll see how the next few weeks plays out. So that's what it's doing. I'm a citizen in this state. I pay taxes, and I have a very good understanding of the Fourth Amendment.
Thank you for the presentation, Chief. Councilor Delnicki.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Chief, just a quick question. Is the public able to go into the flock system to see what your department has taken pictures of?
No. And very upfront with making settings changes and software changes to make sure that the LPRs are not being used for immigration purposes or reproductive rights violations that would be violated.
Okay, great. Thank you.
So I'm going to go to Councilor King and then Councilor Pendleton.
I'll yield to Councilor Pendleton.
Councilor Pendleton.
Thank you, Councilor King. I just want to say thank you for being here. It's wonderful to see you, and it's wonderful to hear what you have to say. Something different. We were told something different. How do you know that?
Because
How do you know that we were?
I watched the public input on March 16th at the council.
No, if it was a year ago or 2 years ago, the flock was mentioned by you, and I want to say I'm very happy for the families that we were able to help within our community with stolen vehicles, for suicidal family members, for missing. I just want to say thank you very much.
You're welcome, and thank you for mentioning that. I'll also say that, most of you know me pretty well at this point. Councilor Cordero I've known for almost 30 years. Councilor Pendleton since the beginning of my career. I'm a very risk-averse person. I don't stray far off the line. if I'm a by policy, by the law, and Flock isn't taking anyone into custody. Our investigators are. There's more legwork to be done. It's just a picture of a.
Get it further, you get rid of it. How do we, some of the pushback I know has been the retention as well as the data sharing. You don't share any further than your address.
Say it again about your address.
Yeah, I'm saying your address as far as the police station.
Oh.
Yeah, I'm saying it doesn't go any further than that, the data sharing.
We share with other Connecticut agents, and we do proudly adhere to the Trust Act. So there's things we can't give out, there's things we can't share with certain people, and we run it, and talking about there's no federal notifications, there's no nothing. It's simple. It's held at the local or state level, and on they go. So I trust everyone.
So that you can say, no, we're not able to do that. Our town or our council says that we're not giving you this information for X, Y, and Z reason. Because I know that's another piece of pushback that there aren't any restrictions for X, Y, and Z reason. Because I know that's another piece of pushback that there aren't any restrictions on what you can or can't do.
Yeah, no, I don't think at this point we need guidance or direction from the council. With all due respect, I came to the council to launch this project. We met a couple years ago in executive session. It was discussed. I wanted to inform both parties of kind of what my plan was, what the intention was, what the realities of this were, because even back then, I could see then that it was a little bit of a political hot potato. And we have progressed. Now there's a state model policy, so the state has weighed in and given us policy that we have to adhere to. Quite frankly, when I saw the model policy, it doesn't really impact us that much because that's what we were already doing with a few very small exceptions. Like we had been doing periodic internal audits of our queries and our searches and also who's querying us. We had been doing that periodically. The state policy, I think, calls for that quarterly now. So it's not a big, it's not gonna modify our operations much at all. And there's legislation on the floor at the Capitol. We'll see what comes out of that. So I think there's plenty of legislative input. And I like to think that, and I know other towns have aborted the initiative. That's their call. I would like to keep this apolitical because I think once we start to go political, then it's gonna ping pong. And when a Democrat-controlled council, whenever that day comes that they're not in and the Republicans come in and they wanna switch it, then it becomes operational ping pong for us. That's not fair to us, and quite frankly, it's not fair to the 26,000 people that live here whose cars are gonna be stolen or who are gonna have people go missing or whatever. I hope that you all trust me and that I run this police department the way I was hired to do. If you don't, tell me and we'll work it out. But at this point, I don't feel that we need input or approval or votes on what to do because you guys it took 20 minutes to agree on the agenda. I don't wanna open that can of worms and figure out, holy cow, what are we gonna do? You ask 9 people, you get 11 opinions, and here we are, nothing changes.
Finally, through you, Mr. Mayor, just to be clear, for me, and I would like to say for all of us councilors here, it's not necessarily political as much as it is, heaven forbid, if your child is in the Philadelphia area at school and gets pulled over, it's not political. It becomes very personal. So for me, it's more of a personal, as I think it would be for any counselor up here, not political, so let's not even throw that out there to the public. It's a personal situation from the standpoint that mistakes can happen, mistakes can be made. I'm not suggesting that there would be. I'm just asking the question based on the pushback that other towns have talked about and said, okay, do we have to worry about that? So for me, it's not political. For me, it's more of a, you know what? Does our town need it? Doesn't it need it? I trust you. I have to trust you.
Well, you don't have to.
Well, yeah, I do, because I have 2 kids, and I have a wife, and I have a house in South Windsor, so I have to trust you. And so my questions are more about, it's not back and forth or political or anything, it's just, okay, do we need it? And if you say, yes, we need it, cool. Can we restrict it? You answered my questions, and that's it. I just wanted to be clear that
I
it's
understand.
not.
And that's why I mentioned earlier, my wife drives through this state, my 2 children drive through this state, my mother drives through this state, and I'm comfortable with this system being in place and implemented the way it is. With my own love, it passes the mother test, that's for sure, okay? And if my kid gets pulled over, and Flock isn't pulling people over, right? Flock there's a decision by an officer. Right. Yeah.
Okay. Councilor Cordero.
Yes, thank you, Councilor Cordero. Thank you, Chief, for being here and the presentation and the clarity. Just to make sure, I heard it correctly. In 11 and a half months, you said it was 70 cases, is that correct?
Give or take,
Overall?
there were a couple duplicates on that list, so.
Right, because they overlapped into
Yeah,
other cases.
they're
Okay.
referenced twice in the list.
And when the first initiated, were all the cameras in place, or was it just one camera, and then we increased to 2, 3, 4? Was it all at once?
We started with 6.
6.
And then we expanded to 8. Initially, the whole thing was funded by ARPA, Connecticut Auto Theft Grant money.
Yep.
So we started with 6, and then there was still money available on the grant, so we expanded, added 2 more, so 1 additional location. And then there are some private locations in town, private companies that own their own that we have access to.
Okay. And that was a cost of $30,000, you said?
I'm sorry?
30,000?
Ish, yep.
Ish.
Yep.
Okay. Well, thank you, I appreciate it. Right, so just for clarity, so since being retired from the police department for transparency, I wish we had that when I was working, because there were a lot of cases at night that, you know, to have that system would have been great, especially for families and victims in town. There are a lot of things that do happen in town that people don't realize until affected by it, and to have this technology and to help the officers in certain situations is critical, and time is of the essence in a lot of cases. And that's why this system here, instead of the old police work, groundwork, and calling and looking in, this system speeds up a lot of cases. And I'm sure you know time is of the essence in a lot of critical cases, which, you know, I'm in favor of it, and I don't have a problem with it. And I think it's a great system, as long as it's kept the way it is. So I want to thank you for initiating that a year and a half ago, 2 years, and get it implemented. And I mean, just what you gave us the rundown has been very successful. And if you ask any of those families involved, if we didn't have the flock, a lot of those cases would probably go unsolved. So thank you.
Thank you.
Deputy Mayor Paterno.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Chief, thanks for coming in tonight. It's really helpful to all of us to understand what's happening. You mentioned the town of Newington. So my question is, and the idea of reciprocity. Do all those other towns where you have some kind of agreement with, they have the same type of cameras?
The same type of
Same
cameras?
type of cameras, just
Yeah.
the license plate reader? There's no video anywhere?
Right, our reciprocity is just LPRs.
Right, okay. And then with the corporation itself that supplies these cameras, is there any way that people can get into that system without your permission?
Any way that people can get into private sector USA company without my permission.
Yeah,
They would have to be, you know, it would have to be hacked.
right.
Flock sent out a letter to Connecticut chiefs, and they very specifically, it's highlighting misconceptions and misinformation. Number 8 here is, has Flock been breached, and why do I keep hearing that it has? No. The recent concerns agencies are hearing are not the result of a successful hack or compromise of Flock's platform or cloud environment. The breach narrative you may see in YouTube videos, blogs, or on social media usually collapses several things together, like FOIA releases of audit logs, historical sharing configuration issues, how network audits appear when exported, and policy debates about federal access, and then labels of, and it goes on and on and on. The system hasn't, it's very, very secure. We wouldn't use it if it wasn't. And there's no connection to names, but that's all through, that's what I'm saying, is it's a picture of the back of a car.
Right.
We then can use other systems like Collect and NCIC to take that plate, a full plate number,
Right.
and run it and see who owns it. Then we can work backwards, see who was driving it. Was it stolen? Did Junior have the car out that night? Was it whatever? Was it a rental? Who knows? But Flock is just giving us the back of the car, a static picture of the back of the car.
Yep.
And that's also by design to eliminate photos of the front of the car where you can possibly see drivers
Right.
and identify people and or race or ethnicity of people. That's all out of the equation because it's just a picture of the back of the car as it goes by these
Right.
readers.
So one last question. How confident are you that the Flock Corporation is not going into or entering into agreements with other entities to share this data?
I'm as confident as they tell me that they are, and I think that they've been very responsive.
Okay.
And I think that they're in a contract with us.
Right.
That they can't share it without our permission.
Okay.
So I think if they did that, A, their reputation would be shot. B, they'd probably be pursued for breach of contract. B, they would potentially suffer major profit losses and attacks to their business model and all that. So I have no reason to suspect that they would do that behind, they've signed a contract that says they won't. Just
Okay.
like I signed a contract that says I would do certain things with it or wouldn't do certain things with it.
All right, well, that's important that you're at that comfort level, that
I am.
confidence level. Okay, thank
And
you.
and Flock has also offered to come to council meetings in Connecticut and speak, and I don't know if we're to that point. You guys asked for just a presentation. I'm sure if I reached out to them, they would send someone out to, you could hear it straight from the horse's mouth. And if that's something that the council decides it wants to do, it can. Quite frankly, I think that person would say the same thing I'm saying to you.
Right.
If you want to hear from someone else, then we can talk about that, but I don't know that that's necessarily the direction we need to go as a municipality.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
So, Chief, I'm last. I think I just have a couple questions. By the way, fantastic presentation. I, among other people on the council, have been reading articles in the newspaper, and then we did have somebody come in to one of our meetings, but my wanting this on the agenda really was because of the newspaper articles, just so when I get a phone call, and I've gotten a few from residents, I could say, hey, it's not necessarily what you read in the paper. We hired an expert, and we believe in what you're doing. I've written down like half a page of notes, so I think I have most of it, but I just want to really quick, they're pretty much yes or no's, but just so I can answer questions. Are towns required to have these cameras, or are they optional?
They are not required.
Okay. How were the locations for these cameras chosen?
Based on activity in town. So we have one up in about the Buckland district, and then Route 5. And then, like I said, there's other private ones that are in town.
Okay, so when you talked about 4, are those the ones that we control?
Yes.
And then the 8, the difference between that and 8, those are
4 with 2 cameras per. So you have, like on Route 5, you have location A, and that has a north and southbound, 2 separate recorders because they face opposite directions.
Okay. And is there any differentiation between town and state roads?
No, we got permission from the state. So the Buckland is a town road, so we got our own permission.
Yep.
And Route 5 is a state road, but we went through and applied to DOT for, I forget if it's an easement or if it's right away, whatever it was. We have all that paperwork in those applications. We went through that and got permission from them.
Perfect. And at some point, I'll have to apologize to the couple residents that I responded to, but now I fully understand. So I have all the answers I need, and thank you for all you're doing.
My pleasure. And there's a lot more that I had written down that I'm happy to speak about. The gentleman that was here a couple weeks ago is here tonight behind me, and I don't know if he's here for this again or if he's here for something else, but I'm happy to speak with him too if he wants to contact my office. And I've spoken to the ACLU about this. I've spoken to my mom about this. So I'm happy to speak to whoever. I'm easy to find. I have a lot of phone numbers. But like I said, and I'll end with what I started with, this is a good system. To take this away would set us back a long way. And it's increasing public safety in South Windsor. It's safe, it's legal, it's safe for our officers, it's safer for our officers. We're getting guns off the street, we're getting drugs off the street, and we're saving people who are in need. So it's a good system. And I would just ask that if you make any decisions, please consult with me before you do. Because it's not me who's going to be impacted, it's going to be the 26,000 people that are behind me that are going to be impacted by a decision to remove it.
I think the information you provided is really helpful.
Okay.
All right. Thank
Thanks,
you.
folks. Appreciate it.
All right, we were up to number 7, which is public comment. If you could just raise your hand, is there anybody here who'd like to speak to us at this point? All right, so I see a couple. I'm going to read the notice, and then I'll just warn everybody. At 8 o'clock on the dot, we're going to have to stop and go to a public hearing on the Board of Ed budget, and then we'll come back. So the first person can start coming up, but public input shall not exceed 30 minutes. When recognized by the mayor, the speaker shall approach the lectern, give their name and address. Speakers shall avoid personal attacks or impugning or alleging an improper motive to any person. The speaker may address the council on any matter within our jurisdiction. The speaker shall limit their speaking time to 5 minutes. The town council does not respond at the same meeting you speak to us. And again, if somebody would like to come up, and Mrs. Senerth will keep track. And most people don't get anywhere near the 5 minutes. But if you do hit the 5 minutes, I'll just ask you if you can, try to finish up. So whoever wants to go first.
There we go. Good evening. My name is Jeff Trachtenberg, and I live at 111 Oxford Drive in South Windsor. I took a day off from work last week to see my tax dollars in action and to witness firsthand the court case versus Harrison versus the residents of South Windsor. I wanted to understand myself the claims of widespread voter disenfranchisement that have been circulated. I arrived at the courthouse around 10:30. The hearing had already begun, and Janice Snyder was on the stand. I sat towards the back of the courtroom just to take it all in. At the front, there was the judge and his two assistants, 3 attorneys representing the town. Attorney Hearing, representing Bonnie, our town clerk. Attorney Richard Corella is actually absent today, and Attorney Craig Fishbein, representing Councilman Balboni. Across from them sat Mr. Harrison's attorney. Behind the town attorneys were the Councilman Rick Balboni and Town Clerk Bonnie Armstrong, both defendants in the case. What struck me the most was not who was in the courtroom, but who was not. In a case described publicly as involving widespread voter disenfranchisement, only 6 allegedly disenfranchised voters were present out of the 3,847 voters who voted for Mr. Harrison. No media coverage, no large group of residents, no visible public outcry, just 6 individuals. And by the afternoon session, the number dropped down to 3. 3. All right? Even Mr. Harrison's wife did not return after lunch. So I have to ask, if thousands of voters were truly harmed, where were they? Because what I saw did not resemble a community fighting against voter disenfranchisement, more like a small group pursuing a very expensive legal action. And that brings me to cost. We, the taxpayers, are funding 3 attorneys to defend this case. This lawsuit will cost us at least $100,000. Right through today, through the end of March, we're at $59,000 to defend this case. Money could be going towards services like police, like education, and maybe even tax relief. Instead, it's being spent on litigation that, from my own direct observation, appears to be less about voter rights and more about timing of the political transition. Residents asked for a more balanced town council, and they got it. Now the town is being sued over the timing of this outcome. But I'm not here to argue the legal merits. That's for the courts to decide. But I'm here to say that the public narrative of widespread voter disenfranchisement does not match what I witnessed in the courtroom. And I believe taxpayers deserve transparency and about the real impact, the real costs, and the real motivations behind this lawsuit. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Is there anybody else? Why don't you come on up?
Good evening. David Birch, 90 Beelzebub Road. First of all, Chief Lindstrom, thank you for coming. I very much appreciate you taking the time to do that. I appreciate everything that your department does. You folks do great work. I don't mean to diminish that at all by what I've said before or anything. I respect you guys. I appreciate you guys. I'm sorry, I will face the microphone.
And also, just for my benefit, if you could, the closer you can get to the microphone, more of us can hear. But thank you.
Very good. So, that said, although I certainly appreciate the police, all that they're doing, all that they're protecting us from on a daily basis. Obviously, I spoke before regarding my concerns about flock, and I did just want to follow up on a couple things that the chief said. Now, he mentioned that we are not using any people monitoring systems from Flock, which I appreciate knowing because I didn't know. I went to the Flock transparency portal where each Flock customer has their usage of Flock disclosed, and South Windsor had nothing. We had apparently opted out of that transparency report, so I didn't know we weren't using those specific Flock Condor vulnerable cameras. I'm still concerned about the ALPRs, though. Now, the chief mentioned that, among other things, he does not believe that Flock is sharing that data with other companies, and that they would probably be getting in trouble and have breach of contract issues if they were doing so, and that he could only rely on what Flock was telling him, though, which is completely fair. That's what I'm doing, too. All I can do is rely on what Flock tells me. I did read the Flock contract. It's publicly available. It's right on their website. Section 4.2, titled Customer Data, says that we grant, well, firstly, of course, there's the stuff about who we can share voluntarily with, other customers. 4.2 then says, we also grant a, and I quote, non-exclusive, perpetual, irrevocable, worldwide, royalty-free, fully paid license to use, reproduce, modify, and distribute the customer data. That is a right granted to Flock. So, I would like to know who Flock is doing all of that sharing with, because their contract clearly specifies that they can do it. Now, we know that Flock is partnered with Palantir, which is a scary mass surveillance company. We don't know if Palantir is getting this data. We don't know if other companies are getting this data. It's not disclosed. But the fact that the Flock contract clearly specifies that they can do so, that they don't have to pay us for all of that data, and that they don't even have to tell us that they're disclosing that data, makes me still concerned. Another comment, I only have another couple minutes here, but I wanted to address also was that since we're only using the ALPRs, it is correct. It only captures a picture of the back of a car. The problem and the value, depending on your perspective, is not the picture of the back of a car. If a car got stolen, we probably know the license plate, we probably know what it looks like. The value is that it captures the back of that car every 60 seconds as it travels down the road, or whatever it might be. Every time it passes in front of a scanner, it is captured and recorded. He mentioned that it is useful to, if there is a carjacking or an assault or something like that, to go and track it down. That's exactly what the system is doing. It's tracking its location. Not pinpoint that you're sitting in this 4 square feet of land, but within a block or two, or however sparsely placed those scanners are. Now, we have not saturated our neighborhoods with these scanners, at least not yet, so they don't know exactly which block I'm at even. But they do know my travels as I go from street to street down the road. It's scanning me each and every time, tracking my movements. It knows how long I was over there and then how quickly I came back and what route I took. So although it's not a GPS tracker attached to my car, in some ways it is similar. It depends on the saturation of those scanners. It depends on how many we have. Apparently, we don't have a tremendous number, but we certainly have enough, and we're sharing that data with neighboring towns, so even when I leave our town is still tracking me where I'm going. It's pins on a map. It's not hard to follow where those pins go and figure out where I've been and what I've been doing. There are other things I could address as well, but I'm about out of time, so thank you for yours. Chief, thank you for yours.
Thank you. Mr. Edwards, I believe.
I think this is on. Dan Edwards, 131 Hilton Drive, South Windsor, Connecticut. I'm here tonight, again, as I was on February 17th, as a resident who cares deeply about transparency, accountability, and the integrity of our local government. I'm here to respectfully but firmly oppose, as I did that time, that certain counselors recuse themselves from any executive session related to the pending claims or pending litigation of Madison versus the town of South Windsor. Why is that? As a reminder, as I said that day, I felt there's a serious conflict of interest. Excuse me as my phone is bombarding here. Right now, it's a serious conflict of interest and a capacity issue. You have a counselor you have several counselors, one who actively testified in the lawsuit, one who sat mayor and deputy mayor at the time that the Charter Review Commission was formed, and you had Mayor Zimmerman, who was one of the inaugural members of the Charter Review Commission. Some of the other concerns I have. What is the point of actually having an executive session tonight on that specific matter? Attorney Corella, unless he's for any litigation matter. So again, I'd like to respectfully ask that that item be removed, or at a very minimum, I hope that Deputy Mayor Paterna recuse himself, as I know Councilor Cordero will.
To talk to the council at this time? Okay. If not, is anybody interested in like a 3-minute break before we get to the 8 o'clock so we don't have to stop?
So, we ready for this hearing?
All right, I'm going to call the meeting back to order. And it's 8 o'clock, and I'll read the notice for the public hearing. Notice is hereby given that the South Windsor Town Council is set Monday, April 6th, 2026 at 8 p.m. in the council chambers of the South Windsor Town Hall, 1540 Sullivan Avenue, South Windsor, Connecticut, as the time and place for a public hearing to receive citizen input on the proposed Board of Education budget for fiscal year 2026-27. Is there anybody here from the public that would like to speak to us? And if you could just make sure at the beginning that you just give us your name and address. You're not going to make me get off the dais and come to the microphone and talk, are you? All right, going once, twice. All right, 3 times. So what they normally do at the end of a public hearing is I'm going to ask 3 questions, and Councilor Delnicki, if you and Mrs. Senerth and anybody else want to take a look, I'm going to give you the opportunity to say that we should be spending less than requested, the amount that's requested, or more than was requested. All right, and we're going to try to get amounts for each. All right, so raise your hand if you believe that the town council should approve less than the Board of Ed requested. Okay, that one I can take care of. All right, so the answer is 0. Who thinks that the town council should approve what the Board of Ed requested?
Mr. Mayor, I'm not sure the entire Board of Education can vote on this particular issue.
I don't think they need to recuse themselves, but if you can raise your hands again. Yeah. Is somebody keeping track? Okay. All right, and then the last, we'll make it 8. The last number is there anybody in the audience that thinks that the town council should approve more than the Board of Ed requested? All right, so it's 8, 8 what they requested, 0 for the other 2. And at 8:02, we'll close the public hearing, and we'll go back to our regular agenda. And if anybody would like to leave to watch something on TV, enjoy. All right, we're up to 13L. I think that's Deputy Mayor Paterna.
Yes. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is a resolution approving an offer of a tax abatement with Buckland Gateway LLC, the Gateway Development, whereas a request for tax abatement has been received from Buckland Gateway LLC, the Gateway Development, an out-of-state company for development of real property located at 220 and 245 Gateway Boulevard and 274 Buckland Road, South Windsor, Connecticut. Whereas the Town of South Windsor's tax partnership, established pursuant to Connecticut General Statutes 12-65B, is intended to encourage the development, expansion of quality business in town through tax and other economic incentives, and is designed to retain and attract businesses that will generate substantial additional tax revenues and employment opportunities for the town while providing quality goods and services. And whereas at the Economic Development Commission meeting held on February 11th, 2026, the Commission reviewed and recommends that a 7-year tax abatement agreement be offered for the development of the property upon the application of Buckland Gateway 1 LLC. And whereas Buckland Gateway 1 LLC, the Gateway Development, will be the property owner subject to the agreement, and whereas the developer has committed to pass the tax abatement savings to tenants, whereas the town manager recommends, pursuant to said program, that the agreement be offered to Buckland Gateway 1 LLC as an incentive to invest an estimated $5.5 million in total costs for a new 16,700 square foot building and equipment. The company will create approximately 60 permanent jobs and countless construction building jobs. Now therefore be it resolved that the South Windsor Town Council is pleased to offer the agreement for 7 years between the town and Buckland Gateway 1 LLC, commencing with the grand list following the date, the certificate of occupancy of the property, provided, however, that if such assessment is changed by any future town revaluation, the new assessed value of the property shall be reduced by the percentage applicable to the year within the agreement period such assessment is changed. And be it further resolved that the South Windsor Town Council's offer to Buckland Gateway 1 LLC of this agreement is conditioned upon Buckland Gateway 1 LLC, 1, meeting the estimated $5.5 million construction cost figure and agreeing to the abatement figures, and 2, continuing to pay the real estate taxes on the property for a minimum of 7 years from the date of the certificate of occupancy that it is issued. 3, if Buckland Gateway LLC fails to meet either of these conditions, Buckland Gateway 1 LLC shall refund the Town of South Windsor all the tax benefit reduction it has received. And be it further resolved that the South Windsor Town Council's offer is contingent upon the execution of a written tax abatement agreement by Buckland Gateway 1 LLC reflecting the terms set forth in the resolution and such other terms as the town may require.
Is there a second before we have discussion? All right. Can I just, Mr. Maniscalco, do you have anything that you want to provide to the council before we start having discussion?
Sure. The one thing I think I noticed as this was being read, and actually Mr. Sager mentioned to me during our recess, nowhere in here does it say the actual percentage that the abatement would be. I think it's probably in that, it's supposed to go in that be it further resolved section, so property for a minimum of 7 years, and then after the years, probably put at 70%. So if somebody could make
I'm sorry, I'm just having trouble hearing you.
Sure, so in the section that says be it further resolved, after the 7 years, I think it would say at 70% from the date of certificate of occupancy. So that would be consistent with what the Economic Development Commission recommended.
Yes, that's their recommendation, right?
Okay.
Okay.
So you may want to make a friendly amendment to just modify the resolution to that effect.
I'd like to make a friendly amendment to modify the resolution that states the 7 years, continuing to pay the real estate taxes on the property for a minimum of 7 years from the date of the certificate of occupancy. And what else, Mr. Maniscalco, belongs in there?
No, it's just 7 years at 70%.
At 70%. 7 years at 70%. I'd also like to make a friendly amendment where it says in the third sentence, meeting the estimated dollar figure amount, then another dollar figure amount, and then the numeral 5, if we can remove one of those dollar figure amounts that's there. There's 2 of them there. If we can just remove one of them.
Got it. Same paragraph.
Okay. Yep. And I'd also, before we continue, I'd also like to ask, I know in the past in agreements like this that there have been a written statement or it's been brought up that if the property was sold, that the abatement does not go to the new owner and that the old owner would have to do something about the abatement. Is that correct, Mr. Maniscalco?
Right, so that'll be a part of the actual contract that's put together between the attorney and the developer.
Okay, so that doesn't have to be in the abatement at all?
That doesn't go in your resolution, no.
In the resolution. All right, thank you.
All right, can I get a second just on the slight changes to that paragraph before we have the broader discussion?
Yeah, second.
Is everybody okay with just approving those? All right, all those in favor? Aye?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? No to the correction? Okay. Roll call, please.
Okay, Counselor Olet?
No.
Counselor Pendleton?
Yes.
Counselor Cordero?
No.
Deputy Mayor Paterna?
Yes.
Mayor Zimmerman?
Yes.
Counselor Delnicki?
No.
Counselor Fitzgerald? Yes. Counselor King? 5 yeses and 3 nos.
All right, now just general discussion. Counselor Roulette.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mike Willett. We've heard repeatedly from Deputy Mayor Paterna that 7 of our top 10 taxpayers were given abatements. Unfortunately, correlation does not equal causation. According to the ArcGIS on the current amount of tax abatements through 2023 on our economic development page, that was last updated in 2023. It is 2026, but we'll go with the data. That shows that the total taxes abated through FY23 were $7,427,015. And the total taxes paid on abated properties through FY23 were $11.69 million. Deputy Mayor Paterna also said in the last meeting that while those companies pay reduced taxes initially, they generate returns 10 times over to the town. I'm sorry, but $11.69 million of revenue is not 10 times the abatements given, it's 1.6. And there's still another $7.48 million of tax abatements that were active as of FY23 which have not been collected yet. Those don't include the tax abatement that was given for the next phase of Tempo, even though they were given an abatement while they are at or near capacity, and they still haven't put a shovel in the ground. That's $14.9 million of tax burden that has been shifted to taxpayers, namely residents who don't get tax abatements. Again, correlation does not equal causation. Companies like Aldi and Tempo were coming here because of our proximity to highways. They were not coming here because of abatements. So here we sit tonight to discuss giving a tax abatement for a business that has already begun construction. To educate the council and the residents who voted for this council, there were many, many steps that took place before we got here, including concept designs, securing tenant commitments, developing a budget for a commercial development, and then using and developing pro forma financial statements to obtain a commercial development and construction loan. Lenders use these forward-looking projections detailing anticipated income, expenses, and cash flow for the completed project to verify the project's viability, assess repayment ability, and determine the loan amount. The bank would not have given them the money to begin the project if there wasn't rock-solid confidence in the developer's ability to repay the loan. The very fact that construction has begun means the project is viable and does not need a tax abatement. I would also like to call attention to the way we frame our abatement language. And I quote, "Whereas the developer has committed to pass along the tax abatement savings to tenants." That loophole is so large, I could drive a dump truck through it. Giving $1 satisfies that commitment, and there is no way to measure it, nor is there any recourse. If we are going to punish homeowners by giving tax abatements, it should be used sparingly and intentionally for tough-to-develop properties like Mestec and Geisler's, and there should be strict conditions attached to these, including project start and completion deadlines with abatements at risk for non-compliance. For this reason, I am voting no.
Deputy Mayor Paterno.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I find it interesting that the previous town council, although Councilor Ouellette makes reference to a project like Geisler's, that everybody in this town wants to move forward, the previous town council did not give a tax abatement to that developer. And it sat there for another 4 years. That's the reality of the costs today in construction. And my example of 10 times, I'm sorry I used the wrong phrase. I'll use Home Depot as an example. Town was collecting $30,000 in taxes on that property before Home Depot came into town. Even with the abatement, they paid $300,000 a year. And when the abatement was off, they were in the neighborhood of $600,000 or $700,000 a year compared to $90,000. That's where the difference is. Now, 7 of the top 10 taxpayers, I'll say it again, in 2024 are companies that this town council gave tax abatements to. 7 of 10. They don't go away. They stay here because of the positive aspects of the town of South Windsor. And we protect ourselves by saying, if you sell, if you go away in 7 years, pay all the back taxes. And I think in reference to Councilor Pendleton's concern, remember in the last paragraph in this resolution, it says, and all other terms of the agreement that will be developed by the town. So that idea of what the tenants, how this money will be passed on to tenants, that could be written in there. Because this developer in an executive session told us specifically that's how he plans to keep 4 or 5 tenants engaged in this project by offering them the return and offering lower rents for the first few years. He's not keeping that money and putting it in his pocket. He wants the project to succeed. So that's why I'm voting yes. I think it's, and by the way, we're not taking money from any taxpayers in this town. In fact, this development will help in the future reduce taxes. That's why economic development makes sense. You reduce taxes on residents when the businesses come in and pay this high level of taxes. So please, don't phrase this that we're taking tax money from, we're stealing something from residents. This is a way to help residents to keep a stable tax rate and a tax base. That's why I'm voting yes. Thank you.
Councilor Jelnicki.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This project was already, the ground has already broken. So this developer was already committed. He would not have spent the money. He knows what the land was when he bought it and how he was going to develop it. And using Geisler's Plaza as an example is a very poor example because the tax abatement was denied, or did not want to give a tax abatement because there was housing part of that abatement. And housing should not get an abatement, the apartments or the commercial. That's the big difference between that. Buckland Road is a high-traffic area. It's close to the highway. And if Mr. Sager didn't think he was going to be able to fill that spot, he would not have broken ground as early as he did. 70%, I'm not in agreement with. There was really no true discussion to go back and find out if there was any leeway with the developer for 70%, or 70%, 60%, 50% down the line for 7 years. Not even 5 years at 50%. So the reason I'm going to vote no on this resolution is because the project was already committed to the ground before even asking for the abatement. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
All right, I'm going to go to Councilor King in a minute, but Mr. Maniscalco, can you, don't want to put you on the spot, but do you have an understanding, have you had any kind of give and take with the developer about the need for 70% for 7 years? And second part of that, as far as you know, are any of the restaurants that we're getting those guaranteed at this point? Is it my understanding that a couple months ago, I think you told me that a certain salad restaurant was coming in, and now that's not part of the plan. So it seems to me that it's like a fluid situation until there's actually an arrangement. But if you could answer both of those.
Sure. So to quote Mr. Sager, who's sitting in the audience, so he could scream at me if I mess it up. During our conversations with him during executive session, I believe he said something to the effect of he would have to go back and really seriously reconsider whether he moves forward with development without 7 years at 70%. Additionally, I believe he doesn't have any full-on commitments from, or signed leases with any restaurants, but he has letters of interest. And I believe the one entity that you mentioned, the communication was that that either we or they were not moving fast enough to actually make it into this project.
Parent. This is why I said we should have this conversation out here and not in executive session so that the people see for themselves and hear for themselves directly from the counselors' mouths who's voting one way or another. So for me, the issue really comes down to, and I appreciated having the mayor's forum. I don't know, all of us were not there at the mayor's forum. However, I was. And one of the things that the experts said was that an abatement is just the icing on the cake, really. Businesses, any business usually makes a decision far and away long before they even put a shovel into the ground. So I do agree with my fellow counselors that a decision was made long before the abatement may have been put out there that, you know what, this is viable property. Anybody who has any sense, let alone the finances to do it, is going to put money where they see an investment where they can get a return on their investment, period. That's just business 101. You don't need a degree for that. Obviously, my background is in sales, so I appreciate the return on investment even more. That being said, someone who's been in his business as long as the owner of the property obviously knows that, or he wouldn't be as successful as he is. So does he need the abatement? Probably not. He probably understands the fact that this is something that's going to be a legacy for my family, and I want them, and I wish I had that type of an opportunity. So I'm fine with that. However, what I am more concerned about, and I don't want this to get missed, and I will admit, I don't appreciate the characterization that we're stealing anything from the residents. You know better, Councilor Ouellette. You have a business mind. You know we're not taking anything from the residents. It's a seesaw, right? The revenue is higher, the taxes go down. The revenue is lower, the taxes go up. It's not taking anything away from anyone. It's just the nature of doing business, again, business 101. For me, the abatement, the fact of the matter is, and I asked this several times, and I just wanted to make sure, and we will put this in the contract if this does move forward. Being someone that has been involved with restaurants probably 2 or 3 times, it is a very, very difficult business. Not only to invest the money, but then to get it off the ground. You have to have the right funding, the right people, the right machinery, pass the right inspections, all of that. And trust me, been there, done that. If anybody else on this council has done that, please raise your hand, because I have. And the fact of the matter is that when this owner says, I am going to pass that abatement on to those owners, that's what I'm voting for. If he's not, you're not getting the abatement. Not at all, because you have the money. That's why you're doing what you're doing. But the fact that you said, I'm going to pass it on, and you did say that in the executive session, that's what I'm voting for. I'm voting for the fact that if this helps those restaurant owners and those people that he wants to be, and he's looking for the future to help minimize the costs and the stress that's going to come, because it's not only just the property, it's also finding the right people. And people are a cost, period. These are individuals that, when you're opening a restaurant, and I won't be on a diatribe for long, that you have to know that these individuals that you're paying are going to stay, are going to last, are going to run those businesses appropriately. And it does help that owner to know that, okay, I'm going to get a little bit of that money in my pocket so that I can really invest in what I'm looking to do. That all said, and that's the reason why if that's in the contract, I will be voting for it. Going forward, I agree, and this was brought up again during the mayor's forum, businesses don't need an abatement. It's just the icing on the cake. It doesn't necessarily need to be part of the contract. My questions to my fellow councilors would be, and this did not come out yet, would you accept a lower abatement? This doesn't need to be as, unfortunately to use the word that has come up already this evening, political. At the end of the day, this is a conversation, this should be a negotiation. This is all of our town. I pay taxes here too. Would you accept a lower abatement? And then that's a conversation that we would have with the ownership, whether that's time or money. One of the things that I wish that I could put in here, and it says it, but unfortunately it never comes to fruition. And in this economy right now, I wish that I could put in the contract that all of these businesses need to hire not so much 60 permanent jobs. I would almost say if we're giving 77, I want 60% of the employees to come from South Windsor. For me, that's really allowing us and the property owner to put the money where our mouths are. Because those individuals that are working and living in this town, because that's also something that came up during the mayor's forum, is that a lot of businesses don't put businesses in certain towns because they don't have the education, or they don't have the housing in South Windsor, so they can't move. You know what? I have a problem with that. We're already living here. We're already living here. We're already paying taxes here. Why can't you hire the majority of your people from South Windsor because you're using South Windsor money? You're not taking from South Windsor, but you are using South Windsor money. I wish that I could put that in here. I've been told on countless occasions that we cannot. But that would also help my vote. Because I think that that is significant, and that puts both of our hands in it. That not only are we giving the money for the abatement, but we're also saying that, you know what, South Windsor, we trust in you enough that we are also going to hire from the individuals in this town, because there are a lot of people in South Windsor that don't have jobs. So if they are going to give up some money, not taken, but give up some money, then they should have the opportunity to have some jobs. Finally, contract, yes. I don't believe, and I think Mr. Maniscalco alluded to this already, that all the contracts had not been written. So that's also something that we can discuss, whatever our different disagreements might be, that those types of things are put into the contract. So again, if those types of things are put in where this abatement, whatever it ends up being, it going to those restaurant owners and those owners of those properties to help them succeed, then I think that that benefits us all.
I'm going to go to Councilor Cordero in a minute, but Mr. Maniscalco, I'll just give you a heads up. If you could, while Councilor Cordero is talking, and maybe somebody else, Councilor Fitzgerald, before you get to me, I do want to have a discussion about what the 70% abatement, let's just talk about year one. Please don't answer it now. I'll go to Councilor Cordero, but if you could start looking at what that really means in dollars, because that's the amount that's going to be divvied up, I believe, to the 4 restaurants. And while it sounds nice, but if we change the 70 to 60 to 50, obviously the amount that's going to those restaurants that we think is a really good idea will go down. So if you could give that one some thought. Councilor Cordero.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Councilor Cordero. This is rather difficult because for folks up here who were lifelong residents in town, realize what Buckland Road was back in the day to where it is today. And over the years, yes, there were abatements given to Evergreen Walk and so forth and so forth. But as that happened over the last 20, 25 years, the amount of development that's left on Buckland Road has diminished greatly. And with that being said, Mr. Maniscalco, how many tax abatements has this developer gotten in the past for other projects?
0.
And he's been doing this for a long time.
Correct. I believe during his presentation, he showed like 10 projects and hasn't received a single tax abatement.
Correct. And this is other communities as well. I'm not correct, right? Glastonbury, et cetera.
Oh, I don't know what he's done in other communities.
In the region.
Well, he's done projects in the region, right?
Yes. Okay. Well, that being said, and then he comes and developing the site that he's on now. And like Councilor Dunleavy said, he's already here. We didn't have to entice him to come here with an abatement to develop. He's already here, which is another problem that I have. And we all know that part of the property is going to do well. He's a developer. He gets it. He sees it. He drives by it. He sees the cars. He sees the traffic. It's a great site, which is another reason why I have a hard time giving an abatement. And then third, obviously, is the citizens. People are like, well, we'll get it on the back end when they start paying once they're here. Even when we talk about 5 years, I think that's still difficult. It's just hard to give an abatement considering the situation with many families. Do I agree that the business should encourage hiring South Windsor residents? Absolutely. You know, if we make it a part of the contract, regardless if they get the abatement or not, I can't see why not. I strongly encourage that. But to give an abatement of 7 years, 70%, or even 5 years for a site that is well sought after, they know it, that's why they're digging it in, prior to getting this motion of an abatement is something I just have a hard time giving them. Especially if in the past he has not gotten an abatement for any of his other projects, so I think it's very important to know. Do I think the restaurant industry is hard to develop and get going off the ground? Absolutely. We all know it's struggling. We hear it in the news all the time. You know, not only startup businesses, but even like franchises like Wendy's, McDonald's, all them restaurants. We get it. They're all struggling. I understand. But he wouldn't go there not knowing that the potential is there to be successful with or without an abatement. So I think, you know, we have other sites in town that we really need to encourage abatements and get development going, whether it be Route 5, Geisler's. Then you look at this site here, I just can't see how we could possibly give them an abatement. So for that, I say no.
Councilor Fitzgerald.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Maniscalco, if this abatement is given, when would it start?
So the standard practice with tax abatements in town is they typically come through, so they go through the planning and zoning process, they get all the design done. Once that's done, they apply to the town for a tax abatement. It goes through my staff. It then goes through, I'm gonna just run the whole process if that's okay, because I just think it's a little better for everybody. It'll go through my staff. We'll put together estimates of what those numbers look like, what the actual taxes are gonna look like. We also check the entity to make sure they don't owe any back taxes, things of that nature. Then it'll go with a recommendation from myself to economic development, who reviews it for all those same things. They review my recommendation, they make a recommendation to all of you. Once all of you actually approve a tax abatement, we will sit down with that developer, put an agreement together. The tax abatement cannot start until a certificate of occupancy is issued. So during the period of construction, whether that happens tomorrow or whether it happens 3 years down the road, we are collecting the full amount of taxes on that property until the actual property is built. So we don't actually implement the tax abatement until the very end when the certificate of occupancy is actually issued.
Do you know, or maybe our tax collector knows, what the amount of property taxes is being collected on that property currently?
Current amount, no, I don't have that off the top of my head. I don't know if you guys have that number. I don't think we have that, but we could get it for you.
But when the...
It's probably minimal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what I think. When the road is put in, all the infrastructure is put in, the buildings are put in, I assume the property would be evaluated at a higher amount than it is currently.
Correct.
Patch of dirt.
Right, so based on our overall value of the property that the assessor went through, she's estimating the whole thing is going to be worth about $5.5 million.
And you don't know what it's valued at right now, do you? Any chance?
Current value for that property, I don't know offhand what it is. We could look it up on GIS if you want to take a minute, but.
Is it 120 million, Mr. Maniscalco?
I'm sorry?
I think it may be like about 120 million because it's just farmland at this point.
No, it can't be that
No,
much.
120 million is
No?
probably way more.
Oh, okay.
And the abatement, if it were to go through, is only on property taxes, correct?
Correct.
So are there other taxes that the town would be collecting once those businesses start to be occupied? And can you just explain a little bit about what those taxes would be?
Right, so we would collect personal property taxes on all those other, on all the businesses that are in there. So we would get revenue off of, you know, the tables, chairs, serving equipment, all that sort of stuff, as well as the kitchens.
And that would be 100% of that?
Correct.
Okay.
And we did a rough evaluation of some other kitchens around the area, and I think there's kind of a spread somewheres between about $10,000 to $20,000 per restaurant.
In addition to the 30% of the property taxes that we would get?
Correct.
All right, thank you. I think that this business owner has, or this developer has developed in this town. He's been a good business partner in this town. I don't think that residents are going to be punished by him coming here and him getting an abatement. I also don't think that he should be punished for having the foresight to develop this property on Buckland Road. And I think it's a great thing that he is going to pass along this abatement to the restaurant owners that would be coming into those parcels once they are built. So for that reason, I am in favor of this. Thank you.
I'm going to go to Councilor Roulette, and then I have a few comments.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. All right. South Windsor is valuable to retail and hospitality because of our traffic and our demographics, right? We're affluent, we attract affluent visitors. Evergreen Walk is successful because of that, and this project will be successful because of that. Fine dine, full serve and QSR, we need more of it in town, and this is a location he's confident enough he can fill, and the bank is confident he can fill, otherwise they wouldn't have given him a loan to fund the project and shovels wouldn't already be in the ground, number one. Number two, we're attractive to warehousing and logistics, not because we're a great town, not because we give tax abatements. We're attractive to them because of our location, 291, Route 5, 84, 91, 384. We're at a hub of all of the transportation coming through Connecticut, except for 95. Everything coming through New York to New England is coming through here. That's why people, companies, not people, companies want to be here. Our land is a finite resource where we don't have a lot of it left. It should be treated by us as valuable because it's viewed by them as valuable. It has value. Because it has value, we should be charging taxes for it, okay? I struggle, everybody talks about, I've heard from other members of the town council, we have a revenue problem. We have a spending problem, okay? Our problem is spending. And what we're trying to do is say, we don't have a spending problem, and we're also now gonna create a revenue problem because we're shortchanging ourselves on the value of the property. Giving tax abatements reduces our revenue and negatively impacts residents who pay taxes. If we give $10 million of abatements away, that's $10 million because we have a spending problem. That's $10 million of burden that is shifted to residents. Full stop. You can couch it in any way you want, but the reality is we are sending an increased bill next year, 2 years, 3 years, for the next 7 years to our taxpayers because of an abatement that we're giving to someone who started a development that was clearly vetted by financial institutions that had confidence that this thing had legs. We're not talking to somebody who's trying to redevelop Mestec, who has huge pollution issues that are going to cost an unknown amount of money to redevelop and remediate. We're talking about a piece of property that is literally the most prime piece of retail real estate in South Windsor, and we're going to give an abatement. It's already underway. It's silly. This is all silly.
All right, so I got a couple questions, but Mr. Maniscalco, since I asked you before, the difference between 70% and 60% in year one is approximately?
So just to run through some numbers, new taxes raised on the property with the abatement at 70% would be $58,756.50. The taxes abated in 1 year would be $137,098. 10% difference comes out to about $19,585. And it's a little over $1,000 a month.
So the 58 that we collected would become what? I'm sorry.
No, the 58,000 is what we would collect with the abatement. If you went down to 60%, is that what you're saying?
Yes, it would go up to.
It would go to. Let me get you an exact number.
So like 60, like a sixth, like 68.
58. It'd go to 78,000.
Okay. All right. So a couple things. Sometimes I think I know what I know. So the current owner of that property has owned it for
As long as I've been here, it's 7 years.
All right. So, and over those 7 years, we've collected minimal taxes because there was nothing on the land. All right. So if this had gotten developed 7 years ago, 10 years ago, 15 years ago, we'd be at maximum revenue and it'd be a good thing. Driving up Buckland without names, farther down on the left, there's another plot of land that's owned by, I guess, the family now. But there was a property owner that owned that when I was in high school. All right, that has never been developed, fully developed. I don't know if it's worth as much as this property or not, but I know that we've gotten virtually nothing in taxes because it hasn't been developed. So I'm a simple person. There's clearly people smarter than me, but if we collect other taxes, 100% of other taxes, and we collect 30% of something, and we get it now, in many ways, that's better than 100% of zero that's going to be delayed. We can use Geisler and other examples that it would have been great if something was developed 5, 10 years ago, but it wasn't. Right now, they've spent probably a reasonable amount of money bringing in water, bringing in utilities, stop me where I'm wrong, fixing the entranceway, leveling the land a little bit. But unless I'm missing something, are there any buildings there? Is this fully built out and we're just waiting to decide which restaurants and which medical people are coming? Is it fully built out and I haven't seen it behind the fence? Am I wrong? All right, so they've invested some money, but they haven't fully invested. They haven't pulled the plug. There is nothing official, all right? I gotta believe when the owner comes to us and says, an owner, by the way, who's paying about $1 million in taxes a year currently, which makes them one of the biggest taxpayers in our town, comes to us and says, I have this really good idea. Let me just stop for a minute. Mr. Maniscalco, I heard you tell us earlier in a different setting that you think one of the reasons you were in favor of this, and I don't want to put words in your mouth, was that it might spur on other development in the Buckland Road area, which makes this kind of special?
Sure. So, from my perspective, I think it fits in with everything that planning and zoning has said they want to do in that area. It fits in with all the other items that are in that area. We have seen the property. As you head towards Manchester, there was an interest from a national developer that wanted to do something with that property. That didn't move forward. I think when you look at Buckland Road overall, I think we all saw Evergreen Walk get developed. And as we heard during your forum, the challenge with Evergreen Walk is it has no visibility. The other side of the street does have the visibility, but it has site issues. So there's elevation issues that increase the costs of actually developing there. And what we saw, both because of the elevation as well as the drainage from that national developer, he decided he didn't want to move forward in that location. So my hope is development spurs on development. I think we all kind of understand that idea. So my hope is as this gets developed, somebody else is going to develop next door to that and move it on and move it on and move it on. I will say that, as I mentioned earlier, this has been vacant for 7 years, or at least owned by the same individual for at least 7 years. I've made a phone call probably almost every year, just kind of, hey, what's going on? Because we've seen plans for this project for quite a while. And it's always the financials aren't right, the financials aren't right, the financials aren't right. I think we're kind of at a point where we're seeing this developer saying, I'm ready to take that leap of faith. And I know we heard somebody during your forum mention that tax abatements are the icing on the cake. I would never bring a cake to a party without any icing on it. And I think, I don't really look at tax abatements that way. I really look at them as kind of kicking a project across the finish line and making it happen. To date, we haven't seen that happen with this specific property. And I think what we are seeing now is the developer is willing to kind of take that risk, and he's asking for us to be a partner in that. And I actually, sometimes when people come forward looking for an abatement, I would tell you, they probably don't need it. Coca-Cola probably didn't need it. You know, some of these larger Fortune 500 companies probably don't need it. This is not a Fortune 500 company. He's looking for somebody to partner with him so that he can make the restaurant businesses that he's looking at be successful. And so from that perspective, that's kind of why I got to where I was, and, you know, we kind of offered forward and made the recommendations that we did. All right.
And, you know, just for the record, I totally agree that all 9 of us, if everybody were here, are all concerned about both spending and revenue. I know I haven't slept a lot since the election in November because I'm trying to make all the numbers work, and they're not really good, and I'd love to have us have more revenue. I think the reason I'm going to vote for this is because I'd rather we have this benefit 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 years from now. It'll help, in my mind, it'll help the whole area. And early on, we should be getting a lot more than we are. I think the thing that makes this one different, and Mr. Maniscalco, you and I have had this discussion, I really think when this is over, we need to figure out who needs to be in the room, and we need to kind of set some kind of a policy that wouldn't say vote yes, vote no, but maybe some kind of a scoring system that would help us kind of figure out, you know, to some of the points people to my right have made and to the left, this is a good one to go down the road. Maybe this one isn't. But the thing that makes this one different to me is the fact that the owner is willing to take the benefit and give it to the restaurants. And we've heard directly from the restaurants earlier how $5,000 to $10,000, but close to $10,000 each per year really makes a difference for them. And to me, that's the biggest reason why this one makes sense. That in your discussion about the fact that this might be a driver for the area. One last question, and I'm going to go to Councilor King. The $5.5 million that's in the second to last bullet, that's what we're saying the developer is going to ultimately spend to get.
That's what we're saying the value of the whole development that he's looking for an abatement on would be.
So do we know what the developer is actually putting out there?
We're expecting you would have to spend that to actually have that value. That's correct.
Okay, so I'm guessing right now, I mean, I know the person sitting in the audience, but I don't want to go down that road at the moment, but I'm guessing the vast majority of that expense hasn't happened yet. So the developer could tomorrow decide, I'm going to wait another year or two and wait until this town's ready for me to expend the money, or they could go turn around and sell it to somebody else, and they could keep the property for, 20 years and just let the value go up. There's no guarantee that anything's going to happen at this point. I don't think they've spent so much money that they can't turn the car around or slow it up. That's what I heard from our meeting.
Correct.
I'm going to go to.
I think Liz had her hand up.
I'm going to go to Councilor King and then Councilor Pendleton. Councilor King.
I'll yield to Councilor Pendleton since she hasn't said anything.
Councilor Pendleton.
I'd just like to say that I back up Councilor King 1,000%, but I also agree with the 77 or 770 to help out the developer. And Mr. Maniscalco, if we could, I'm just going to put in a request at our next meeting if we can have an executive session with the owner of Geisler, seeing that Councilor Cordero stated that he would rather give Geisler's an abatement. So if you could have them come to our next meeting to executive session so we can discuss that, I would really appreciate that. Thank you.
Before I go to Councilor King, I mean, I know I'm the one that asked for this to be moved up, and then I see town staff in the audience. I'm going to go to everybody one more time, and if we're not ready to vote at that point, maybe we can delay the vote until the end of the meeting. I thought this would take, I didn't think this would take quite as much as it's taking, but discussion's a good thing. Councilor King.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So I'm one of those, just for clarification's sake, I just want to make sure that I'm on the same page with my fellow councilors. In the recruiting industry, whenever somebody wanted to make a move from job to job, one of the questions that we would ask them first is, what is the reason that you want to make a move? because everybody has a different reason for moving from one job to another. It could be money, it could be I want to spend more time with my family, I want to relocate, so on and so forth, right? And then we get to the point where we have an offer letter for that individual, and then they say no. And then we go back and we say, okay, and what that usually comes down to is a fear of change. It's not so much they didn't want the money, they didn't want the relocation or whatever, it's a fear of change. I feel like this might be a fear of change, but I just want to make sure that I'm not misunderstanding, only because some of the comments that have been made. If we were not in a situation, my fellow counselors, where we knew without a shadow of a doubt that we were going to have to raise taxes for all of us this budget year, would this be an issue still? Because from what I've heard is that we don't want to, quote unquote, double tax our residents. So if we knew that our residents would not get taxed, would this still be an issue, the abatement for the building of this? So I'm asking a question. I know I do need to know, because I think that there's a part of me that says, you know what? It's not about, so stop saying if it's not, then it's not about double taxing the residents. Because if everything was zero and you're still saying no, then I need to understand why.
All right, I'm going to go to
No, that's fine.
Councilor Cudero, but Mr. Maniscalco, could you try to figure out what $80,000, I'm going to get criticized for creep of budgets, but if we're giving an $80,000 tax break, approximately, in year one, what that means to the average $350,000 homeowner, just so we can check that box. I'm guessing it's a couple dollars. I mean, it's not the end of the world. I understand we don't want to do 10 of them or 50 of them, but could you just, I don't really think that's today's biggest issue, but I'm going to go to Councilor Cudero.
Do my best.
Yep.
No problem. Councilor Cordero, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Councilor King, yes, I do agree that even if things were at, let's say, zero tax increase, for instance, like I said initially when I spoke, I have a problem with Buckland Road getting tax abatements. I said it when I ran, I was saying when I was a citizen, I grew up in town my whole life. Buckland Road will do fine on its own. We have other parts of town that need tax abatement, need economic development. I'm not going to talk and waste more time. Route 5, guys, we talked about that, right? I'm all for that. This particular project, like I said, it's on Buckland Road. Our prized possession is Buckland Road. If we're going to go ahead and start giving businesses, and like I said, Mr. Maniscalco mentioned already, he has never gotten a tax abatement for any of his projects. These are projects that he built around Connecticut that were land, right? He built things from the ground up. He doesn't renovate buildings, so yes, he goes to a town that has nothing. The town recognizes it, and he still builds in those towns. From what I heard, very good stuff. Well-built buildings, and he has good investments in those buildings and those projects. But with that being said, to tell a taxpayer that this developer has never gotten a tax abatement in any of his projects to come to South Windsor on Buckland Road, if this developer wants to go down Mestec, I'm in. He wants to go to Geisler's, I'm in. Let's talk. But this Buckland Road, because what we have left, besides a cross-street property on Buckland Road, there's not much sawed-off land that's a prized possession. That's my only problem with this, and I hate to see us, yes, okay, we're getting something up, we're getting little nothing right now, we can get more down the road, I understand all that, but somebody will come along the road. He said, oh, it's been waiting for 7 years. Well, the economy's been a little rough since COVID, right? Slowly getting there. He would not invest in that property unless he knew, digging in, bringing the construction company in, if he didn't think it was viable. That's the only thing. And for you fellow councilors, for 7 years, 70%, you're gonna tell our taxpayers for 7 years they get 70%. I mean, I'm a no, but I'm just saying, you guys probably should consider the number. I mean, you're gonna tell a taxpayer, they're gonna ask, why couldn't we do 50 or 40? Why does it have to be 7 years at 70%? So I'll just end with that. But I'm a no for somebody that's being built on Buckland Road. I just can't do it.
I'm gonna go to Councilor Delnicki and then Deputy Mayor Paterno.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just have a comment in regard to your comment about the property that's south of this property, the property owner, the family. I know which property you're talking about. That property is probably bringing in more tax revenue right now than that piece of property that's partially being developed right now, because that's a residential, it's got a house, it's got buildings on it, so it is getting more tax revenue. It's not a vacant land, so it's not getting $3,000 in taxes. There's a lot of taxes there. Okay. And then in the comment with Councilor Cordero with the Geislers, my only issue with the Geislers piece, property, it's not Geisler's property, the Sullivan Avenue Shopping Center, is the developer wanted an abatement on the housing, which is what I was against. So to do an abatement on a piece of property like that or the Meztec building, sure, but not on a residential piece. And that's what the developer was looking for. He wanted full Monty on the whole property, and I wanted to break it out, and he didn't want to go for that. So that's on the record.
Deputy Mayor Paterno.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Well, Councilor Roulette, I don't appreciate your characterization of this kind of an investment. This is an investment in our town as silly. I think it's a wise investment, and if we go back to Councilor Delnicki's comment, yes, the Geislers project wanted the abatement on the full project, and the previous council turned it down. Here's a developer ready to go, and you turned it down. So it's been sitting there for another 4 years. The Meztec building, for all you want to do with it, is owned by someone else. Town doesn't own that. They want to keep that building for whatever reason. I can't understand it either, but they want to keep that building. So this is an investment in our future, and I'll say it again, I'll sound like a broken record, I know, but 7 of the top 10 taxpayers in 2024 were companies that received tax abatements from the town council. I mean, there's the proof right there. They stay, they pay their fair share of taxes, and we get the returns in future years. That's why this is an investment. And to call it silly, I think is, quite frankly, silly. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
All right. I think everybody's had multiple bites at it. You made the motion. Was it seconded? Yes. Does anybody else want to comment, or are we good to vote? It's not where I'd like to end up, but all right. All those in favor? Aye?
Aye.
Anybody
Aye.
opposed?
No.
All right, roll call, please.
Counselor Olet,
No.
Counselor Pendleton,
Yes.
Counselor Cordero,
No.
Deputy Mayor Paterno,
Yes?
Mayor Zimmerman,
Yes.
Counselor Delnicki,
No.
Counselor Fitzgerald, Counselor King. 5 and 3.
Okay. Does anybody have a problem if we suspend the rules and move item 13, new business, up, which is the budget presentations from town staff?
Second.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
All right, thank you. Mr. Maniscalco.
All right. For those of you who have your budget book, we're going to go start with information technology. Paul Boutat, our acting chief information officer, is here. That is on tab 1, page 96.
Good evening. My name is Paul Boutat, and I'm your acting chief information officer. We met on March 16th. I think I met most of you. Quick rundown of information technology's budget. This is a budget in my 30-plus years in government that I did not prepare. So I walked into the department and assumed responsibility of what was proposed here. My understanding is that your salaries are controlled at the administration level as well as union negotiations, so there's a slight increase there. 221 is your operating materials budget. That has a slight increase as a result of price increases in the consumables that you use, toner cartridges and supplies. Your maintenance contracts have contractual obligations in 371, so that resulted in an increase. Your office equipment is your routine line item that you utilize to fund some of your equipment replacements. That covers most of the items where you had slight increase in operating expenses for the information technology team.
Thank you. Any questions? Councilor King?
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Mayor. Appreciate you stepping in because I know this is, yeah, whatever. So the only question I have that you can take back is, and this is probably something that the town manager could probably help you out with, as I'm looking at the Munis page, which is right after on page 35, Munis page. Do all of our directors get that $9,000 car allowance?
No, that is because the former individual filling that position was also the assistant town manager. So that that's going to be probably one of the recommendations from the budget working group to have that removed.
To have that removed, okay. The only other, I just want to make sure, and again, I know this is coming at you from a different direction, so, is I just wanted some clarity, and let me just make sure, because I did read through this about a week or so ago, where it's temporary, where it has, on page 98, fiscal 2027 is 3,500 for temporary, and fiscal year 2025 actual was 21,700. Can you, it might be in here and I apologize for missing it. What is the 3,500 for?
Counselor, I'm not familiar with that particular line item. I'm looking at it, that org number is 1114, temporary non-contracted employee. I would go ahead and research that, and I'll get back to the town manager on that.
Thank you. The final one is just in regards to fiscal year 2025, office equipment at 188, and it looks like it's going up $8,000 for the budgeted year to 196. No, I'm not gonna make a smart comment. Can you research that as well? Or
I can.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Deputy Mayor.
Councilor Roulette.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mike Willett, a couple of questions. So if I just pick down this list of things with over $50,000 on a line item, they're mostly software. So we discussed it prior in different sessions. What opportunity do we have to either collaborate or get into a group buying agreement with other towns so that we can get tiered pricing that where we have, right. So I'm in the software world. The more number of seats you have, the lower your per seat cost goes, or per employee per month, or however you want to look at it, per license per year. Goes down with the more licenses you have. Have we explored at all?
My understanding, just from most of the towns that I'm familiar with, they utilize either GSA contracting, which is a federal vehicle, which are pre-negotiated contracts, and we piggyback those. There used to be Western Conference state alliances that used to actually put out items for bid. The town, and from my understanding and previous experience in other towns, is that any contract vehicle that the town is authorized to use as far as your purchasing agreements here, you would definitely take advantage of them, whether it be Verizon and utilize a government contract or a state contract. Those are the first things that we always look at is there a state contract for a negotiated item, and then piggyback that particular contract.
So, Mr. Maniscalco, on, as an example, the line item of 102,000 Microsoft Enterprise software, that's the account that we were looking at moving to a different, we were looking at possibly outsourcing some IT services, and they wanted to have the MS365 contract moved to them, so that's not done through GSA then?
I'm not 100% sure which entity it was purchased through, but I do know they've used a number of those purchasing agencies.
So
I mean, the outside consulting firm said they could do it for less. Now, I'm not sure. We never got to the point where we really evaluated it, so.
All right, so there are so many line items on this for services. I would question whether all of them under in the prior years, whether all of these have actually been vetted, bid, or leveraging a group purchasing agreement. So can we review that to see which one of these are covered under a group purchasing or GSA?
Right, so I'm taking away the question would be, look at possibly the high dollar volumes, high dollar, or all of them?
All of them.
All of them, and then look to see if a contract vehicle would utilize them.
Correct, yes, please.
Okay, I'll get back with the team and I'll provide that information to the town manager.
Thank you. The other one is computer system replacement at 173,000. Like the network.
Where are you looking, Councilor? If you could help us out a little bit.
Page 37.
Thank you.
Flip one more on that. So
Thank
that's
you.
the big ticket item. What is included in that for a town this size? $173 feels heavy. Unless we literally have all of our equipment is 12 plus years old.
Looking at your budget when I first came in, that was one of the things I came in and initially I said, okay, how are the backups being done? Because that was the priority number one. And then I looked at the budget and did a cursory review to see how you fund in relationship to one of the towns that I retired from for 31 years. And to look at that number of 173, in my opinion, and I spoke to the town manager about this on how you fund your operating, that's extremely low. Another town, to give you an example, would fund in a different capacity. Instead of operating where you use it or lose it mentality, where people will spend and then they feel like they're obligated to spend a dollar value. We changed that in the former town that I worked at into a non-lapsing special IT reserve fund. So then basically we went over and took all of our items, equipment switching, firewalls, and we broke them down into different time slots so we can sit there and say, okay, we're going to do the switching and the firewalls at one time. We're going to do servers and storage at a different time and try to offset the years so you can stop having spikes of saying, I need, $3 million, I need $500,000 or whatnot. And we basically came up with a figure was about $450,000 to $500,000 a year that we would fund into that particular equipment reserve, which is a non-lapsing fund, and then organize your purchases going forward from that. The way you have yourself set up right now, and then from the equipment I see on the floor, you have a lot of old equipment sitting that hasn't been replaced. Backup servers that are 7 years old, and we're writing to equipment that is, questionable at best. You probably couldn't get any hardware support, and it's very important to take these assets and make sure that you keep them on a equipment replacement schedule, similar to what you probably do with your vehicles. You probably have cars that you run for X amount of years or X amount of miles, and then you make that replacement. Your investment in the technology that you're using here, this microphone, these televisions that are up here, these assets have a time frame that they're going to last, and you have to plan for that replacement. Sometimes you're going to get maybe 7 years out of something, and sometimes you might get 3 years, but you're going to need that funding in place in order to handle those replacements. So my recommendation to the town manager and to the council was to explore or possibly look at doing a non-lapsing IT reserve fund in the future, whether this is going to be this year for you, but it is something that you should look at.
So do we host, is anything hosted or backed up in the cloud? Do we have hot and cold storage offsite, or is this all, are we literally all doing everything in this building?
Currently, from my observations, and this is my fourth Monday being here as far as making.
I apologize.
No, that's all right.
The rapid fire.
Right, but I started out. So right now, everything that you're doing is relatively on-site. Once you get into cloud, you're going to have a different expense that you're going to incur. So traditionally, towns and municipalities have tried to do everything on-site, and there was an efficiency to that. Now that you start having a hybrid network infrastructure where you have some things that are here on-premise, you can't get rid of them, and that might be because the tax collector software vendor only runs locally. They don't make a cloud version. So you have a mix right now. Office 365 is one of your larger cloud-based applications.
Or I even back up. I come from the cloud world where like CapEx is pretty low. So this just feels, I didn't understand what went into it, but now I understand.
And I'm absolutely available to answer any questions in detail or from my experience. And I'm just trying to definitely work through this with you and give you a direction that might be more beneficial to you going forward.
And we appreciate your help. Sorry, it's.
Oh, no worries, sir. I understand.
Councilor Pendleton.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Mr. Botort. I appreciate you being here and on such short notice and bringing us the information that you do have. I'm going to ask you, Mr. Maniscalco, if Mr. Paul Botort can come back to us mid-April or when we have our next meeting in April, towards the end of April, to give us an update on what he has for information that he has shared with you and that he can share with us. And that's one question. And the second question is, has the budget working group met with Mr. Botort to find out about the budget for the IT department and or the equipment that the IT department has, and the best practice to look forward going forward, having a reserve and knowing we're going to need X amount of going forward, to come back and present that to us, because that seems like the best way to keep the house running is to have a reserve, purchase what we need for the future, same as with the fire trucks, where we have a replacement plan and schedule. So I'm wondering if Mr. Botort could come back to us towards the end of April and present to us, seeing that he is the latest employee with the town.
Sure. So Mr. Boutat's time here with us is for 6 months. As all of you know, we're now down to 5 months. And it's going to be, our hope is that he's going to be able to come to us with a number of recommendations, including what you're asking for, Councilor Pendleton. So, you know, I think unfortunately for all of us sitting here, timing is kind of against us because of the way the budget cycle is working and how his arrival has been. But, you know, hopefully he'll be able to come back to us with some pretty good recommendations that, if not for this year, at least for next year, we'll be able to get in place and then start taking some big steps forward.
All right, anyone else? All right. Thank you very much.
All right, the next department would be Emergency Management with Walter Summers from the Fire Marshal's office. That's tab 2, page 131.
Good evening. So under emergency management, we had one change in office supplies. We alternate with the fire department on buying pallets of water for rehab and everything. So we added the $450 in office supply. Under professional, the contract for our interpreter service is going up a little bit, added $500. And the Cisco server switches for all the new repeater sites, we have to pay our service fee, annual service fee. So that's the $2,000 there. Everything else is a zero for emergency management.
Councilor King.
Thank you. So my question is in regards to the interpreter service fees.
Yes.
What exactly, so I see the line item for $2,500. Can you go into a little bit more detail about that?
Sure, it's out of service out of Glastonbury, and we pay a flat fee for the annual contract, and then it's an hourly fee per phone call or video interpreting service. You can have in person, you can have video, or a phone call with, I think, about 20 different languages and stuff. So our human services use it, our police department uses it, and it's an excellent service.
So this is also for the hearing impaired as well?
We do with that too, yes. So that is scheduled well in advance. Like we needed sign language over in the assessor's office, so that was scheduled in advance. So we did have a sign language person here to help that citizen.
So you just said that this was across the board. So is that suggesting that we could use for our town council meetings sign language interpretation?
We could, we don't budget for that, because that would be an hourly rate for them to be here. If that's something you want to look at in the future, we can add that to next year's budget. But yes, they do sign language too. Yep.
Okay. The final question that I had is in regards to, you mentioned the purchase of a pallet of water, and I
Yes.
noticed on the capital projects that that's on there as well? Is that correct, Mr. Maniscalco? Or I might be reading it wrong? Under emergency management?
Oh, the box truck?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Is
we'll
that,
talk-
is that this, is that all in?
No,
is that
that's
part of it
separate.
or no?
That's separate.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
Okay.
Yeah, we order it locally and they deliver it with a pallet truck.
Okay. So when we have the increase in office supplies, is to purchase a pallet of water, again, I'm on page 133
Yep.
for my fellow counselors. Is that's not like a FEMA type of a situation?
No, we alternate with the volunteer fire department because everybody in town uses the water at scenes and everything.
Okay.
So, the police and us, so we step up and we buy our share of it once a year, and it's a pallet of water.
Copy that.
Yep.
Councilor Roulette.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I don't think the number is outrageous. I'm just curious for, if I go down to department equipment, we were at in 24 and 25, 5,000 and 2,600, and then it bumps up to 24,000, and that's for emergency management, response, recovery, preparedness, and mitigation.
Yes.
Like,
So there's two thoughts with that line item. In talking with the town manager, we've been looking at maybe a purchase of a mobile camera like they have on the highways that we could use at different events in town. We've been talking about that amongst other departments. The other thought is we will be probably due to run our tabletop exercise maybe next year. So there's two thoughts on that line item that we're gonna talk about next year.
Thank you.
Yes.
So, Mr. Summers, and I guess to everyone else, if you ever attended a Board of Ed meeting when we went over the budget, my favorite question for everybody was, you know, if you had a few more dollars, like, what would you like to do? And I have to admit that I can't ask that. I did that the first couple of weeks when I was elected, when the town manager took me around.
That's not good.
Because I hadn't really looked under the hood. But given the numbers, I really wish we could have that discussion, and maybe we'll still be on the council 2, 3, 4, 5 years from now when the thing kind of turns, so we can have that discussion, because I know with the experts we have in the room, there's a whole bunch of things we could be doing, but I'm not gonna ask you any questions about that because we're having a hard enough time cutting the budget as it is. Anyone else? All right. Thank you very much, and I apologize for the wait, but thank you.
Oh, no, I have another line item next too.
Now we're moving on to the fire marshal's
Oh, I'm sorry.
office.
Yep.
I'll put my other hat on.
Tab 2, page 136.
So the changes in there are obviously in the salary account. The other one down in operating is the ESO program. That's the program that the fire department and my office use to report the fires and inspections. That fee goes up every year. And the software training conference for ESO is annual, and I actually have an employee down there right now, but the cost of that is gonna go up about $500 for next year. And those are the only changes I have.
Councilor King.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I see on page 139 for my fellow councilors that the town manager proposed or reduced the fire marshal budget by $4,000 roughly. So are we suggesting in that, Mr. Maniscalco, that the fire marshal actually wanted 43,000? As opposed to what you lowered it?
Right,
Which would be
so-
39,000 plus the...
So it was a reduction in the part-time salaries. I think that was due to, you were
We
looking
adjusted
at,
the employee's salary request.
Yeah, so
Yep.
the employee salary request.
For my fellow managers, looking at page 138,
You're
part-time
looking at
wages.
138?
So you actually lowered that to 39, but you actually wanted 43,000.
Correct.
Is that accurate?
Correct.
Yes.
Okay. As far as the summary of goals for fiscal year 2027, the transition to the new fire marshal, is that already underway?
No.
So essentially, if you don't get what you're asking for, then that's not going to happen?
So, as of April 1st, I can retire. But I do need a job in Florida where my wife lives. So I am actively pursuing that. So when that happens is when I will transition. So it could be the end of this budget year, it could be next budget year, but we'll be bringing a new fire marshal on board.
Or it could be when she says, get down here.
She could say that.
Okay. Just for my fellow counselors, that's something we want to definitely take a look at because, I understand that could be an expense, but obviously we don't want to be family first.
Mr. Summers and I have had some pretty regular conversations about transition and how to manage his department moving forward through that. So just so you're aware, we have had those conversations.
Awesome. Final question, on the Munis page, page 49, under uniforms and clothing, says uniforms for 4 employees, 1,600. So that's for 4 employees at $400 a piece.
Correct. Our current employees, because we've just bought them mostly new uniforms over the last year and a half. It's just upkeep on those, but in the new position that we're going to do, it'll be a little bit of an expense to re-uniform a new employee and the Class A uniform and all that kind of stuff, yeah.
And side question, what just happens with the old?
With the old? Because it's got names and everything, and the badge, we destroy them. Yep.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Councilor Roulette.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Do we charge for fire inspections on apartments in South Windsor?
So our fees come from plan reviews. So anytime a commercial building permit is submitted, we get $7 per thousand on that value. So it's a very good revenue source. I personally don't agree for charging for inspections. That's what the tax dollars they're paying for, and it's a statutory requirement for us. I personally have a little problem with going up and knocking on the door. Before I come in, you got to pay me my $50 to do your inspection. I don't agree with that. What I do agree with is, and we've had some discussion with this, is if we have a party that is not fixing what we need them to fix, and we have to do 2, 3, 4 re-inspections, I don't think that's included in your tax dollars. That's misuse of man hours and our time. We've had some discussions on charging, for re-inspections, but we're just internal discussions right now on that. But we just collect plan review fees.
Thank you.
Mr. Summers, since you're here, like a number of people here, I think, I live in condos. One of our units burnt down, one across the street had a major fire. I know that your staff has been extremely helpful. I think probably condos in general, adding some safety factors. My condo actually doesn't have like separating walls.
Correct.
Firewalls in between, so it was built so long ago. So I do want to thank you since you're here. It's not only when they come every year to make sure that we're, we have fire alarms and stuff, but you had to approve various upgrades to our condos, and I know we're not the only ones, and I do appreciate that.
Thank you.
The expertise is important, so thank you.
I do have one more line item. I don't think it was on the list, but the hydrants and water lines.
Before you do that, Councilor Delnicki?
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't see your light.
Oh, sorry.
That's okay.
It's a small, tiny line item, but I was just wondering under, on the Munis page 49, Geisler's supplies?
Under line 29?
Munis page 49, under office supplies, you got Geisler's supplies for, I mean, it's $200, but I was just wondering what Geisler's supplies is.
Oh, yes. Because the town does have an account at Geisler's.
Oh, okay.
So odds and ends, we can still go up to East Windsor and buy some local stuff. from
Okay.
Geisler's. Yeah.
Sorry.
If we don't spell it out, finance doesn't like that.
All right, thank you.
You said you have one more?
Yeah, the hydrants and water lines on page 144. So the biggest change there is MDC is going up about $3,000. The biggest increase is Connecticut Water. They're going up $92,000. It's a significant cost to the town.
Councilor King.
Thank you, my apologies. So 142, that's under your jurisdiction
Yeah, I
as well?
maintain the hydrant water line account.
Okay,
yes. Yep.
so the only thing I was going to say is I noticed how under administration and management, how we approved, 201, but it went down to $188. Looks like we're gonna reuse some stuff and so on and so forth, so I just wanted to say great job on that. I appreciate when we actually don't necessarily need something, but we're reusing it. So I appreciate that going down.
Thank you.
Mr. Maniscalco, it dawned on me, one of the water bills went up, was it 80 or 90,000? 90,000?
92,000, yep.
One of the things that I'd ask if you and your staff could put together, in the next couple of weeks, is if you take the dollar figure that our total budget increased from last year to this current year to next year, let's just say it's 12, 13 million. I don't have the numbers in front of me. It's probably a little higher than that. I think it would be really helpful when we start really trying to explain stuff to the public if we had a column and it's just, things that we can't touch. So it's contractual things, it's insurance increases, it's stuff like the water went up, electricity, everything, went up. And I think it might be interesting for people to see kind of how those two numbers agree. And then there will be a difference, that's, decisions. The Board of Ed has some in their budget, that they had the option. It's not very high. As I look through the town budget, there's not a lot of optional stuff being done. But I think that might be helpful as we, start trying to explain wherever it is we're going to end up. So, but we'll talk about that more. I think we have a couple meetings this week. All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, we're moving on to Public Works, tab 3, page 146, and Mr. Stetson and crew is here. What page was that? 146, tab 3. Just go right to tab 3.
Good evening, Mayor Zimmerman, fellow councilors. Thank you so much for your time this evening. Very, very tight game, just to give you guys an update. I'm pleased to introduce the team that is with me here tonight, all very consummate professionals and very focused on the bottom line and maintaining all the current services that we now provide to residents. I'm going to start with the lowest budget first, Mr. Tony Manfrey with refuse and recycling.
Thank you. Good evening. Tony Manfrey, Superintendent of Pollution Control. Yeah, our budget, we've primarily contractual obligations to our hauler, All American Waste. They do the curbside collection and disposal of refuse and recycling for the town. My budget this year went up approximately 3%. And the largest variable cost that we have is on the refuse disposal side, and that's just due to...
Not to stop you through you, Mr. Mayor, just if we can just all be on the same page, because I know some of us are looking for it. That's all. What page are we on? 170. Thank you, 170, thank you.
So, yeah, The variable cost, and it's variable because of the disposal tonnage that the town residents put on the curb. So that, I'd use a 5-year estimate on that, and this year is 8,100 tons a year. The cost on that went up 3% over last year, and that's a big driver of why the refuse and recycling budget increased. The other thing I'd like to note is we do have a fuel surcharge fee. Since this budget was put together, fuel's obviously skyrocketed. So that might be something to consider increasing the budget to. That line item is at $26,250, and I'd probably recommend at this point adding another $20,000 to that. Other than that, I can answer any questions.
Counselor King, then I'll go to Counselor Fitzgerald.
No, I'm good to go, sorry.
Okay, Counselor Fitzgerald.
The bulky waste disposal, I know it's once a month. Do you, I mean, is there like a steady flow every single month?
Yeah, the refuse is strikingly consistent month to month. I have everything trended out. Like I said, I have a 5-year trend. And if you look at it month to month, it's very consistent. So pretty good grasp of what's going to be thrown away this upcoming year.
So there's no, I mean, is there any opportunity to like, cut it down so that it's not once a month, maybe it's every other month, it's bulky waste, or would?
Yeah, so we've talked about that in years past, and talking with All American Waste, who does this, across the region, they say that you're still going to get the same quantity at the end of the year. So if you offer a quarterly pickup versus monthly pickup, they're just picking up more every quarter, but at the end of the year, you have the same quantity. So there's not much of a disposal savings there.
Okay. And it goes by weight?
Yeah.
Weight, did you say?
Yeah, there's tipping fees with bulk. Yep.
Okay, thank you.
Oh, Counselor Pendleton.
Thank you. I have a question concerning the refuse and recycling. You said you'd add $20,000 on for the gas. Can you tell me where you'd put that $20,000? Is that on page 147 under the 2683, please?
That's in the 320 account.
Okay.
So yeah, there's just over $26,000 allotted for the fuel.
And you're saying add another 20 to that?
That would be my recommendation at this point.
Okay. And then also, you just mentioned doing the recycling, the bulky waste once a month, and we still come out with the same amount of waste product, but we don't come out with the same amount of gassed product if we have to do it monthly as opposed to once every other month. Do you see what I'm saying?
Correct, yeah. So we'd have to renegotiate that in the contract if we did that.
Okay.
So they
Would that
charge,
save us anything?
I think the important thing to remember is they charge on a per ton basis. They don't charge you for the fuel that they spend to come out and get it. So the tonnage at the end of the day is still the same, whether it's a pickup on a monthly basis or a quarterly basis.
And then the gas we would spend, though, would be on the quarterly basis as opposed to monthly basis.
But we don't spend
That
anything
might be a
for
savings
gas.
to us, no?
We don't spend for gas, they do, right? And then
Got
they
it.
bill us on a tonnage basis.
Okay. All right, thank you.
All right, I think we're good.
I think, Mr. Mayor?
Thank you very much.
Mr. Mayor?
Thank you.
Question.
I'm sorry.
Mr. Manfred, before you go. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm going to ask you to predict the future. So I know that approximately 40% of our waste is food waste. Do you see a point in time in the future where we can separate food waste put them in separate receptacles, and would that actually save us money in the long run?
So we've already, I think the state will be pushing that in the future. It's hard to say when.
Right.
There's already been some talk and communication about that. So what we've done is started a composting facility at the town garage.
Right.
We have a dumpster for folks to drop off food waste for composting and that sort of thing. We also do a food waste backyard composter sale.
Right.
And we do that typically in April for folks to purchase at a discount rate, and they can compost in their backyard. But as far as curbside, it's hard to say when that's going to happen, but I mean, it wouldn't surprise me with the current state of the refuse market.
So I know Southington has an anaerobic digester.
Mhm.
So if we ship food waste over to them, are they charging us to deposit the food waste, or do they pay us since they're getting a product,
There's a
soil that they're selling?
Right, yeah. So there is a disposal fee.
There
to,
is, okay.
Yeah, yep. So there's going to be a cost to do it, especially if there's a curbside collection.
I'd love to, not for this budget, but I'd love to see those numbers and see what might happen in the future, because I think we're headed that way, you're right.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yep, you're welcome.
If I may just add to that, that having a backyard composter, of which I do, I have filled it many times over, and it dwindles down to nothing. So it turns into an awesome compost that can be used right there in the garden. But a full composter where everybody gets nervous about it and you have the right food in it and it can break down on its own and just let it sit for the year, you have awesome compost at the end of the year for springtime for your garden or your flowers.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
One more thing, just, I want to applaud you for selling the composters at a discount rate to residents in town, so I appreciate that program.
Yeah, it's been a good program
Thank
that
you. Yeah.
folks have taken advantage of, so thank you.
Mr. Maniscalco, before you go on, thank you, by the way, thank you very much. Just for my information, last year the town council used tax stabilization, like 2.5 million. We're talking about, I think, using that or even 3.0, but 3 million to kind of balance the budget. But if I understand correctly, what you do the day the budget passes is you, over the next year, you try to either collect more money or spend less. So of the 2.5, that if you went to a budget book, it says 2.5. If I remember correctly, you used 1.8. So we really only, you gained 700,000, so we only needed 1.8. And I guess the reason I bring that up is while we all could be making a list of everything that changed during the budget process, because we should be increasing a whole bunch of stuff, because some things have happened and some costs have increased. We could do that, or we could just let the year kind of go through, because we're probably not going to use, whether it's 2.5 or 3.0 that we use from tax stabilization when we pass the budget, because you're going to do some stuff during the year. So I know everybody wrote down $20,000, and I know we need that. But before we all start increasing the spending part of the budget, which means we're going to increase the taxes ultimately, I would just remind people that we probably will have savings in that tax stabilization number. It may not be as much, because I think you were a little more aggressive with revenues in the budget. So maybe, we'll only, save 300,000 or 400,000, but we're probably going to save something. Is that correct?
Right, so right now we're looking at potentially using about 1.8 million out of the tax stabilization fund. That's kind of the forecast.
Okay.
We've got to see, where numbers end up for the rest of the year, but, hopefully we have some kind of surplus at the end of the year, but not sure what it'll be.
Okay. All right.
So up next, I'd like to introduce Tori Sidoti. I'm not sure if you folks have had a chance to meet him yet, but he is a new town engineer. He's running the engineering department. So please welcome to the lectern and go easy on him.
Thank you for that kind welcome, Vincent. Like Vincent said, my name is Tori Sidoti. I'm the new town engineer. I was recently hired in August of 2025 to replace Jeff Doolittle. Today, I'm just going to focus on the top items for the increases that you see in the budget. Really, the 10% is derived of contractual obligation increases as well as a regulatory mandate from Connecticut Deep that we received after our budgets were due internally. And these are required inspections by Deep. Every town has to do them, and we got the notification this year that 7 of ours are required for inspection, and these inspections don't happen every year based on the dam structural integrity. It's every 7 or 10 years based on the dam. So it's not happening annually, but we got hit with 7 this past year, and there's really nothing we can do about it. So, but other than that, I'm willing to take any questions from the council.
Does anybody have any questions? Councilor King.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Welcome. So a couple of questions. Obviously, the one is town engineer hired. Okay. Deputy Director of Public Works, we're still missing that, or are we looking at this position as that?
So we have promoted Kevin Vincent to Deputy Director. He's been in town for
Could you just come up to the microphone, just for the public?
Sorry, I forgot. The acoustics in here. So Kevin Vincennes, project engineer. He's kind of been a carryover from the Doolittle era to today. He's a great asset to the town. We're very lucky that he hasn't jumped ship and gone to another organization. He is not with us this evening, but he has the full support of Mr. Torrey here.
So with that being said, before you sit, so are we looking for another project engineer then, if you promoted him?
Negative.
Thank you, sir. I see we have a line item for 10 Gs for an engineering intern.
Correct.
If you can go into that, the purpose, and is that a long-standing situation?
Yeah, so I think annually we have a summer intern from a college, whether it's a freshman through a junior level, and they are very helpful through town, and I think it's a great way to push the younger generation forward in engineering. We're missing engineers in our world. I know it for the last 10 years of being in the world, and I think it gives them real-world experience that you don't get in college. For example, being in these meetings, attending these meetings, understanding what real-world engineering is, not just being behind a computer and doing CAD design, but going to the field, doing sidewalk repair notifications from residences, checking up on their issues, and coordinating that effort with our Public Works Department to take care of minor sidewalk repairs that make a resident happy. And we have an ongoing list that comes every day with new requests, and it's a great, and not just say that's the only pigeonhole that they get put into. We help them develop their design skills. We have AutoCAD in our department now, which is the design program that most engineers use. And I'm very seniored in it, and our new project engineer, James Missel, is picking it up, and Kevin Vincent has a lot of experience with it as well. So it helps develop the younger generation. It helps me as well in the department, because it's hard to get to those 50 list of sidewalk repair items that might be just a little half-inch, maybe, you know, just depending on the issue. It helps me have them do the site visits, get some photos so I can see the severity of the issue, and then kind of go forward.
Cool. So this is something that we do every summer? Mr. Maniscalco?
Yes, sir.
How do we find those? And so, yes, I'll be completely transparent. UConn has an engineering program. My son is about to go into it. He's just a sophomore. So how do we find who we're putting into this?
So typically you put out requests for a proposal, or an RFP, as you will, but it's a request for resumes for college students. And we'll take in resumes from a certain period of time, probably, you know, let's say from April to beginning of June. And then we review those and bring in the handful that we think are warranted interview, have the interview, and then select from there, essentially.
Okay, so this happens every year?
Yep.
Okay. Good to know. Thank you.
Mr. Maniscalco, since it just came up that we have another unfunded mandate, I'm going to ask or put in the Councilor Balboni request that he always asks at the Board of Ed. When you get some time, could maybe you put together a list of what's in the budget that was kind of like unfunded? Nice things, things that make us healthier, safer, I get it. but things that we're not getting reimbursed for?
You certainly can.
All right, thank you. All right, thank you very much. I'm sorry, Councilor Delnicki.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have a question for you. Where are you seeing unfunded mandate?
Well, I heard that we're
There
spraying
was the
something.
unprecedented 35,000 from our department mandates. If you go to page 151, you'll see under town manager proposed 35,000 to fund state mandated dam inspections required by Connecticut Deep.
Gotcha. Thank you.
No problem.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Go UConn.
Still a very close game. Up next, I'd like to welcome Mr. Chuck Marshall. Chuck has been with the town for about 10 years in a management capacity for about half of that, and I would like to announce that we had the pleasure of promoting him to Superintendent of Fleet Services. Chuck annually saves the town an order of magnitude, probably 5 times the salary. He's very wise to the industry, and I believe today he settled a contract for fuel that insulates us from everything that's going on in the world right now. So after no further ado, Mr. Marshall.
That's page 158 in your budget book, just so you guys know.
Okay, so I have a small increase to my budget overall. Two of the biggest drivers obviously are fuel and parts. I conservatively put about a 15% increase in the line item for parts. Salary line item is contractual. We did a little increase on our longevity because over the averages it was short. As far as the line item for diesel fuel and gasoline, I did settle a diesel fuel contract today, just within budget. As you can notice, diesel around the state has been about $5.95 to like $6.40. I signed a contract for 30,000 gallons at $3.32 today. So that's good. One of the other big movers in my budget right now is maintenance contracts, and what falls under that is GPS software and a dated fleet management software. So we incurred a increase. We are at a 400-piece capacity in our fleet manager software. We're maxed out on that. That's went from $4,500 a year to $19,800. After shopping around, most places were in the $36,000 to $45,000 a year market. The company that we're in right now is RTA. I negotiated a contract from the $36,000 that they normally wanted to $19,800. So that brought us a pretty good savings. And the other big contract I negotiated this year was a 5-year contract with our GPS. They quoted us $238, and I got them down to $138 over 5 years. So it's $20,000 a year savings there. And pretty much most of the other line items stayed relatively flat.
Councilor King.
Thank you for that.
Yep.
I'm a couponer, so whenever you're saving, let's make it happen. So on 161, you say you currently have an open mechanic position that you're finding difficult to fill.
So we just filled it,
Enough
which is a good thing.
Enough said. Enough said.
Oh, good.
There you go. Enough said.
Councilor Fitzgerald.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Was the lack of the position that you just filled, is that kind of what was driving the increase in overtime, or?
So, yeah, I mean, we have some of that. I do have a mechanic that graciously fills in the plow routes a lot in the winter. So obviously we've had a crazy winter this year. So I would say he fills in between 40 and 60% of the time. depending how staffing level is. We're all very gracious that he does that, but that does put a little bit of a hit on my department because we get behind and we have to supplement overtime otherwise.
Thank you.
Yep.
Councilor Lett.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. On 159, so general fleet vehicles, I know we've had discussions about this in the past, that we seem to have a lot of vehicles in town outside of the dump trucks and the smaller vehicles. I was kind of hoping we would trend down on the number of vehicles and find opportunities to have people submit for reimbursement for personal mileage and you know, low use situations. How did we end up increasing the number of cars by 2 over the last couple of years? Not this, it's kind of, I'm just curious, like.
Well, we've, part of the thing is need. So every time any department across town adds an employee, and there's been changes through the years. In my department alone, in the 80s, we had 3. About 5 years ago, we added a 4th. So anytime any department adds, there's going to be a need for transportation. Two over 600 pieces is a very minimal increase.
Okay.
I also think the vehicles we added most likely last year, if I remember correctly, were probably pickup trucks.
Yeah.
Like they're not, I think from my memory, the issue people had last year had to do with the fleet vehicles in the town hall parking lot.
And we're continuously short on pool vehicles as well. Like we're running on a minimized fleet in the pool. So if someone goes out for a tax assessment, we have in town hall here, we have like 4 vehicles that can be utilized, but we're constantly under that scrutiny of not having enough for that just alone. So a two vehicle increase is very minimal. Yep.
Councilor Pendleton.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd just like to say welcome to the town since August of last year. And I'd like to say that I've recognized and noticed how much energy you have put into your position and to know your position so well and all the vehicles that we have within our fleet. I'm very, very impressed for the amount of time that you've been with us to know all of that. And I'm most impressed with what you said was that you took them from, and don't quote me on the numbers, you said $220,000 down to $180,000 every month or something like that for 6 months. That's what we like. That's what the councilors like to hear. And on the budget process and reducing that, and good job. That's all I'm saying. Good job and welcome to South Windsor.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Even though it's almost 10 o'clock, I'm going to repeat what Councilor Pendleton just said. Two things. First of all, when I did my tour, I actually thought I was going, it's like a major car repair shop. I mean, professional look, fully stocked, unbelievable. It's not what I expected. And then the second thing is, and what you said today is an example of what I believe staff are doing all the time, which is working extremely hard to not only do their jobs well, but also save us money as they go. And sometimes that's not, we probably don't say thank you enough for that, because that's kind of going above and beyond. And given where we are, that's extremely important. So thank you for that, and your staff, fellow staff members.
Thank you.
All right, it's halftime. I now have the pleasure to, I don't want to jinx it. I would like to welcome to the lectern my peer, Mr. Clay Major.
I didn't bring my homework.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, Deputy Mayor, members of the council. For the record, Clay Major, Director of Facilities. I am requesting an overall budget increase of 9.4% over last year. I want to acknowledge that this is a significant increase, and it's not a request that I make lightly. In recent years, I've consistently maintained an increase at or below 2%, and I have made every effort to continue that trend. Unfortunately, this is largely driven by factors outside my control, including inflationary pressures, rising utility costs, higher maintenance contract expenditures, and continued increases in labor costs. I know you've seen both my budget commentary and operating budget requests, so I'd like to start by providing a summary of the largest line item increases in my budget for next fiscal year. Let me start with this 360 account, the utilities account. I believe it's on page 165. I'm requesting an increase of 17.1%, the largest increase in my budget. Here's why. Eversource transmission and distribution rate increases 3%. Eversource is operating under a new performance-based adjustment structure now. As of December, Pure approved a 3% increase. We have a shortfall this fiscal year due to an unanticipated federally mandated congestion charge, and social benefits charges that were imposed by state regulators and not completely eliminated as yet. Recent federal law change called DASI, D-A-S-I, Day Ahead Ancillary Services Initiative charge. This is a new charge that was created to improve grid reliability by securing reserve power in advance of peak usage periods as opposed to buying this power in real time. And lastly, global warming. The number of and duration of heat waves continues to break records. This obviously has a direct impact and strain on our HVAC systems and increase on overall energy consumption. Connecticut water increases, 7.5% increase, as others have mentioned, largely due to a water infrastructure and conservation adjustment charge called WICA, and an increase in water consumption. As I mentioned, a rise in number and duration of record-breaking heat waves is also responsible for increased water use at parks, pool evaporation, increased lawn irrigation use, and HVAC cooling tower water use. MDC water increase, 6.6%, 30 cents per CCF, that's 100 cubic feet, 457 to 487 per CCF. Increases also affect customer service charges. Those are based on meter size, which we have several. And those are typically more than just the CCF increase, believe it or not. Frontier increases due to deregulation. This, I'm sure, as you heard if you read my monthly reports, these are the POTS lines, plain old telephone lines, that have been deregulated recently. A shortfall this fiscal year due to increased costs due to this deregulation, which came on as a surprise to most towns, I can tell you. Unknown increased cost. In other words, we don't know where this is going next year, but there is some good news down the road here. Just give me a few minutes. Cell service increase. T-Mobile, our state contract cellular service provider, has not had an increase in the last 5 years. This is a state contract, so these costs are fixed and are procured by RFP. An increase for cell service for phones, iPads, MiFi devices, and air cards. Increased costs for replacement of cell phones. They used to be free, but they are no longer. Moving on to maintenance contract increases, that's a 371 account. There's an 8.8% increase in that account. HVA contract increase. Our current contract is, again, 5 years old. That contract was based on pre-COVID pricing, so you know what that means. I'm anticipating a 30 to 40% increase due to fixed pricing over the term of the previous contract. Bid results are due in late May. Building automation service contract increased by $5,000. It's like a 3% increase. Custodial contract increases, annual fixed contract. These are RFPs, so we've gone out to bid 3%. Same thing with refuse collection. Those are also fixed contract increases of 3%. Lastly, I have two small account increases, one in the overtime account for $1,000. It was cut the previous year, so we're putting that back because we do anticipate a shortfall. And one in the operating supplies for $1,000, which will cover janitorial supply increases for seasonal sites, the community center cafe, the splash pad, all those people that use the community center, all those janitorial supplies need to be increased a little bit. So in closing, as I mentioned earlier, many of these cost increases are outside of our control. However, I want to emphasize that we are actively working to manage and mitigate those impacts wherever possible. John Scheid, our building maintenance supervisor, and I have implemented a number of strategies to control costs and improve efficiency across our facilities. For example, we benchmark utility usage across all buildings to quickly identify anomalies and address inefficiencies. We track key performance indicators, including energy use intensity, which allows us to evaluate energy consumption relative to building size and target our highest used facilities for improvements. We utilize a facility condition index to access the performance and reliability of more than 600 mechanical assets, helping us proactively plan repairs and replacements and avoid costly emergency work. This approach has recently helped us eliminate the need for a full-service HVAC contract, saving us approximately $100,000 annually. We review monthly preventive maintenance reports to ensure services are being delivered efficiently and in accordance with our contracts. Additionally, we are pursuing technology upgrades, including transitioning our phone system to the cloud, which will reduce maintenance and operating costs and minimize downtime. We are also evaluating alternatives to fax, analog, and emergency phone lines to eliminate the costly legacy services. These efforts reflect our ongoing commitment to being proactive, data-driven, and fiscally responsible in managing the town's facility operations. I'd be glad to answer any questions.
I'm going to go to Deputy Mayor Paterno, and then I'll go to Councilor Roulette.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Major, not a budget question, but a comment about performance. I appreciate the work you've done over the years in heating and air conditioning units and replacing in school buildings and town buildings, and a recent project in Wood Library where it's a complete new HVAC system which will help preserve documents in that, because of climate control, in that valuable library, including many town documents. I also want to thank you for the initiative and leadership you have shown to make South Windsor a town that's more accessible to people with disabilities. Your leadership has been outstanding in this area, so thank you for that also.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Councilor Roulette.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mike Willett. I want to echo those sentiments. I thank you for what you do. I feel you have probably one of the harder jobs in town, frankly, because a lot of this is out of your control. Like all the utility stuff, I would love to see, can we add that to the unfunded mandate? These are things that are not in your control, and I would like for taxpayers to understand what proportion or what portion of our budget is being affected by people outside of this room. Thanks.
Just a couple things. I think some of it's in your budget. I think some of it will be in a week or two when Park and Rec comes in. But did I hear that you have in your budget the garbage collection in the park, like over the winters?
Not in the park, no. Public buildings only.
All right, I'll hold off. And I guess the other thing that, every time I see you, I just want to say thank you. I think we have a bunch of people in town. I think we have great volunteers, and we tend to build stuff, acquire stuff, build stuff. And the minute we do that, it becomes town property, which the town has to then pretty much upkeep. And you've done some work. You've organized some work up at Rotary Baseball Field, and I really appreciate that. But there's a whole bunch. We have a town full of examples like that, and I know we have a long list. We're going to talk capital projects in the next couple minutes, but I just hope people understand, the good work that the town's doing, and I think the door is open. There's probably a little bit of a longer list, but I really do appreciate the fact that you have made a real big difference just in the last few months, so I appreciate that. So
thank you so much.
Councilor Pendleton, who has more friends up here than anybody else that keep reminding me. Go ahead.
Thank you. I'd just like to say thank you very much for the accessibility that you have created for all of our residents and visitors to the town of South Windsor. And I'd just like to say that maybe 2 or 3 years ago, there was a big argument about getting the push buttons for the handicap doors to get into a building, into a town building. And I remember the argument that came about where the funding was going to come from and so on and so forth. And I'm very pleased to say that coming up on Capitol is the bucketed amount that we fund yearly for our ADA compliances that the town of South Windsor is dedicated and committed to increasing, crediting, creating, and you're behind it, Mr. Majors, and you are the man who took this on, who took on the challenge, who took on the argument, who took on capital projects, and who continues to provide for the town of South Windsor with its accessibility for every citizen that we know of in America. And I want to say thank you.
Thank you so much. If I could just share some of that love with the people behind me, because without the engineering, without Vincent Stetson's support, without engineering, without the street services, without fleet services, without the parks people, it's a cumulative, it's a cooperative effort rather, and everybody has a little something to do with it. So I thank you for that, and I'm sure they thank you as well.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much. Oh, I'm sorry, Councilor Delnicky. I missed the light that's inches away from me.
I'd just like to say thank you too for those doors back there. Since I have a broken foot now, I can take advantage of pushing the button because it is very handy. Because when did that automatic door go in?
Last week, I think we finished it up.
Perfect timing.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And last but not least, I'd like to welcome Mr. Marco Mucciaro, Superintendent of Street Services, page 153.
All right, good evening, everyone. So the biggest drivers for us in the street services division, we have contractual increases, both with our salaries and overtime. We also have, there's an increase in salt. For the 224 snow and ice removal, salt budget has been increased to, I mean, as you guys all know, that this past winter season has been one like we haven't seen in quite some time. So that has a few extra ton, 600 ton above the 5-year average right now, which is just in comparison, that's just 3 basic snowstorms, which can happen pretty quickly. We also have, there's an increase in our 225 highway materials, reflecting a 19.5% increase in asphalt prices. We also have in the 330 account, we have some increases with our catch basin cleaning, which is a requirement of MS4. That's a 15.5% increase that we're going to be seeing going forward, and that's just shy of $5,000 increase. We have some increases in some of our licensing and memberships. Some of those licensing are per contract. And 442 is always a big driver here for us. The town manager did revise this a little bit on us to try to keep the increase as minimal as possible. But we have a number of pieces of equipment that have passed their useful life. There's several that are inoperable right now, and we're trying to replace. So with that, any questions?
Councilor King.
Thank you. Can you go deeper on that?
On which one, the 442?
Yeah, there's several that are inoperable.
Yeah, so we have one of our pickup trucks has considerable rot and is not roadworthy any longer, so that needs replacement. We have a triaxle dump truck that is a 2008, so it is currently 18 years old. Last year, it spent 5 months just sidelined waiting for parts because parts are tough to get as these trucks age. That has evolved as over the last several years. Those parts have been more and more difficult to obtain once the vehicles age.
Even from Amazon?
From everywhere. We also have a 6-wheel dump truck that is inoperable right now, and obviously we need to replace these for plowing. And one thing you should also note that a six-wheel dump truck outfitted for plowing in 2019 was $177,500. It is currently $301,000. Our 442 budget has not increased since 2019. It has decreased. In order to continue to replace all of our equipment that continues to increase significantly in cost, increases to the 442 will be needed. We also have a backhoe that is currently 19 years old that has considerable rot to the cab and will need replacement as well.
When you, through you, Mr. Mayor, just a follow-up, when you get the, and this, and I'll just ask the questions because I don't know. Are there opportunities to get vehicles from other towns, or is everything that you buy have to be new, brand spanking new? You know,
So,
if there's, yeah.
It's a little bit difficult to buy something from another town. Most towns, when they're getting rid of it, it's for a reason. So haven't seen too many opportunities for anything that was really worth getting into. And you're not, when you, like we were just discussing, the age of the vehicles takes a toll on getting parts.
Right.
If we can't fix something and it's just sitting there idle, it's worthless to us.
Thank you.
All right, Councilor Fitzgerald and then Councilor Pendleton.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. On the LEAF program contracts that you have,
Yep.
are they, so is that for 2 passes? The one
Yes.
47? And how long are those contracts for? How long do they last?
So each one's different. We negotiate that through an RFP on each one. So all of those contracts have different start and end times.
Okay, so it's not like, they're not like 5-year contracts or?
No, they typically are 3,
3.
but they vary on when they started. They didn't all start at the same time.
Okay. And the overtime line item for leaf collection, what is that?
So the increased portion of the overtime for leaf collection is specifically part of the contractual raises. So naturally, every year that there's a contractual raise, there's an increase to overtime expense as well.
But if so our leaf collection contracts are with outside companies.
So most of it is done in-house. We do contract to have some leaf trailers. We also contract for some temporary employees to assist. And on top of that, we also utilize traffic control. But most of the leaves are picked up from our staff in-house.
Okay, so the contracts are for the vehicles that you're using, but you're staffing them with your own employees?
No, we have the trailers that we utilize are staffed with a driver within them. But we also have our own drivers, and we have the guys on the ground also working together with them.
Okay, thank you.
Before I go to Councilor Pendleton, Mr. Maniscalco, maybe you can give some thought to what we're going to do. When this discussion's over, I know we need to go through capital projects tonight. I really do think we need 10, 15 minutes in executive session about the town attorney. I think that needs to be accomplished, but can you look at the other list and see what else we do need to absolutely do tonight? And Councilor Pendleton.
Thank you. I'd like to make this fast, and knowing the hour that we're in. The question that I have is, why are your vehicles not within the list of our fleet services and on the list of replacement? Like I said, with the fire department, we have a list of replacement. Why aren't your vehicles on that list too?
Fleet Services does have a replacement list, including all of our vehicles.
Well, you had mentioned that you have a pickup of 19 years old. Is it a pickup or a backhoe or something that's 19 years old? Should that not have been replaced by now?
Yes, it should have, but like I had mentioned, since 2019, our 442 budget has decreased, which limits our ability to keep up with the replacements.
Okay, thank you. And that's account 442, correct?
That's a 442 account, correct?
Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you very much.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Do you want me to just, real quickly, I just went through, I can tell you kind of super high level priority stuff. Under 13, I would just go to 13, items G, I, J, and M, I believe all need to get done on kind of a timeline.
So G, J, and M?
G, I, J, and M.
Okay, got it.
Yep.
Okay.
Those all need to get done on a timeline, so.
Okay, all right, we'll go to capital projects.
All right. All right, thank you very much. I'm going to go through our capital projects proposal. Hopefully, try to move through this as quickly as we can because I know it's getting a little later in the evening. This is the overall group of the capital committee that works on these capital projects on a regular basis. It includes both staff from the town as well as from the Board of Education. It also includes representatives from the town council as well as representatives from the Board of Education as well. So here, just big picture executive summary. This is our definition of what actual capital projects are. I'm not going to read it for all of you. Everybody knows how to read in the room, so we don't need to jump into that. But also, big picture, this is kind of the types of things that we look for in capital. And you know, when we talk about capital, that's our big picture, or hard infrastructure things, big picture projects that we're looking to accomplish, or maintenance projects that we need to do overall. So this is kind of the project timeline, or the capital projects timeline and the roadmap for how we get to here. So September 2025, staff reviews the reallocation of the 5-year requests. That is worked through with both town and Board of Education staff in November. And they go and they prioritize the projects, giving them a ranking. In January, the staff presents their project request to the committee, and they submit approved projects to the town manager as a budget request. The committee and staff present projects and costs to the town council. That's what we're doing tonight. And then in May, the town council then approves the overall budget, and the capital committee actually selects the projects associated with the dollar amount that's allocated to them. So overall, the proposed budget for capital this year is $3,614,000. That's an increase of $16,000, and also includes $234,900 from LoCIP. That's another revenue fund that we get from the state that we're adding into that. Overall, there's 15 projects that have been vetted by the committee. Essentially, every department that was involved, their first and second priority projects were able to be included in the request this year. So just kind of big picture looking back, here's the difference between proposed and approved projects on an annual basis. And then just running through all the projects that have been approved, priority 1 and 2 for everybody to talk about. So first of all, reval, that is something that we fund as like a sinking fund every year. Total project estimated cost is $250,000. There's a state mandate that we do that every 5 years. We basically put $50,000 to that every year. That is coming up pretty soon. Board of Education, so South Windsor High School classroom modifications due to district growth. So as we have all heard, there's increased student enrollment, and as a result, they have to make some classroom modifications. That's a $215,400 project. Timothy Edwards Middle School auditorium lighting and sound replacements. It's essentially they are getting old. They've met their useful life, and they're requesting $270,000. Old Orchard Hill portable classrooms demolition. I think we've all heard some of the challenges with the portable classrooms in the back of Old Orchard Hill. You know, Park and Rec is currently in there. There's issues with mold as well as decay. And as a result, Mr. Majors, as well as the Park and Rec Director, have kind of said there's some pretty big problems with leaving them there moving forward, and they want to have that removed, so it's $250,000. Police Department roof replacement. Roof's 23 years old. It's 3 years past its useful life expectancy. That's a $657,000 project. So this is one project that I want to just bring your attention to. There is a proposal for a box truck that was approved by the Capital Committee, and it was essentially for facilities because they have a lot of different items they wanted to move around and stuff like that. Other departments could also use it as well. That being said, we have another project that's probably going to go back to Capital for their approval, and that's energy efficient upgrades at town buildings. There's been some programs that have come out that we think we could take advantage of that would allow us to get some rebates and other additional funds to help do replacements of all kinds of things that would help us save some energy, including lighting, HVAC, heat pumps, boiler replacements, air sealing, all kinds of things. So that's $150,000, and that's probably, we're either going to do the box truck or this alternate project, one or the other. So it's the kind of wild card out there still. In terms of engineering, they're talking about design build for outflows and culverts on Scott Drive and Ordway Drive. They're looking for $600,000 to do that. The fire marshal has asked for communications upgrades, so there's 60 fire department portable radios as well as 63 police department portable radios that would be replaced through this project. And they'd also be bringing some town fiber to Dart Hill Tower, and as well as the state radio will go to the 911 console. They're requesting $442,000. And then we're looking to do some additional expansion of our fiber network. We fund this pretty much every year. And then also GIS, we're looking to do $50,000 of GIS work. Rye Street Park Playground, requested is $125,000. Our Boundless Playground Phase 2, for all of you who are aware, we've started Phase 1 already, which is the little kids playground, and they're now moving on to Phase 2, which is the larger portion of that playground. The request is $500,000 to do that. And that'll probably be coupled with some fundraising as well. Underground storage fuel tanks. I apologize, I am burning through this pretty fast for all of you because I know you have other stuff to get done. So we are looking for $50,000 for those tanks. Looking for 2 10,000-gallon fuel tanks at the town garage. These would be replacements of existing ones that were put in 2001. They're nearing their useful life at 30-year lifespans. The police department is looking for a UTV. at $52,000. It'll enhance their capabilities in kind of the riverfront farmland areas and some of the back road areas that they have a little more challenge getting to. And then lastly, the Human Services Cafe renovation, they needed an additional $50,000 to get that project done. There's quite a bit of funding already been fundraised to make that project happen, and that would benefit both our seniors and as well as youth in the community who could benefit from that. And that is all the projects we have in capital projects. Be happy to answer any questions anybody might have.
Councilor Roulette.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mike Willett. Mr. Maniscalco, do we have?
Excuse me, Mr. Mayor, may I go first, please? Since I am the chair of capital projects, I'd just like to speak on this, if you don't mind.
We can't see you, sorry. Oh, we'll figure it out.
Okay. Oh, it's because Mr. Maniscalco has his PowerPoint.
We got you
up.
back.
Okay, thank you. Do you mind if I go first, Councilor
Go right
Ouellette?
ahead.
Oh, yeah, totally, yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I would just like to say thank you very much to Mr. Maniscalco for presenting the CIP individual projects that were presented to the CIP members. We worked very diligently and very hard on this to decide which projects we're going to go forth with Project 1 and Project 2 of each of the departments so everybody can have a little piece of the pie. I know we worked hard. I know we communicated. I know there was some give and take. And I'd like to thank Mr. Maniscalco for presenting as quickly as he did each and every project that was presented to us and that the capital projects has approved to bring forward to the council. And now we're asking the council for their approval so we can continue to move forward. And yes, we'll have another meeting on what Mr. Maniscalco has brought forward to us with the box truck or the utilities, the grants that we may be able to purchase or have or apply for. So that's going to be some exciting news if we do that. So I just want to say thank you, and I offer it up to any council member at this time.
Councilor Roulette, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So capital projects are a great opportunity for us to leverage grants. Do we have a grant writer yet?
Ooh, we do not have a grant writer. We don't have funding for a grant writer. What we do to try to find grants as much as possible is our department heads do try to take advantage of those opportunities. I know our Parks and Rec Department director is working on some. Mr. Stetson is a master at them, wherever he is. There you go. So we try to take advantage of what we can when we can. That being said, we can't always get them in because we have other work we have to pay attention to because we don't have someone full-time on staff doing that.
I'll just ask the question to the council, not for tonight, but is that, or I'll ask you, is that a position that pays for itself?
So that's not the easiest of questions to always answer. I think historically, and by historically I mean probably 15 years ago, it may have. I think we've seen as time flows, grants ebb and flow as well, right? So when we saw COVID hit, we saw an increase in grants coming out. And we got, the town of South Windsor itself got $8 million. That's all that money is kind of dried up. And I think as we see economies change, those grants kind of tend to go away. I think we're starting to see some of that go away. What I'm seeing a lot of and what I see a lot of our staff working towards and trying to get them to work towards are things like congressionally directed spending, state funding for different projects, things of that nature. So I think those types of projects are not the type of thing a grant writer would get. I picture a grant writer applying to the Kellogg Foundation for a playground or something to that effect. Whereas I think, we're talking about grants for offsetting the cost of roads, offsetting the cost of drainage, infrastructure, things like that. You're not going to get those types of grants. You may get that funding from an entity like the state of Connecticut or maybe even the federal government.
The news seems to portray that the governor has built up however many hundreds of millions of dollars of a discretionary fund that does seem to be getting deployed to different interests across the state. Just wondering if we should be trying to take advantage of that.
Sure.
All right. I do have a couple philosophical comments, but I'm not going to make them tonight. Just for the council's understanding, Mr. Maniscalco, if the council decides that we want to make a small cut to capital projects, we would have to have a supermajority vote to go under the required policy amount.
Right, I'd have to get the exact policy wording for all of you, but I do believe you'd need a supermajority to go under a certain dollar amount.
All right. And then the Capital Projects Committee, of which I'm a member, will then figure out what to do with the slightly less money, if that's what the council decides?
Correct.
Okay. All right. Are we good? All right. At this point, can I make a suggestion, given the time, that we suspend the rules and listen to the town manager and do 13G, 13I, 13J, and 13M. And then I would like to go into executive session about the town attorney. And I guess my question, Mr. Maniscalco, is those items that we didn't do today, do we still have the opportunity to post those and cover those at our Wednesday budget meeting?
I would actually suggest we carry them to your next regular meeting, if
Okay.
that's okay, because you have a similar budget meeting to like we had tonight, and I think.
Okay. All right. So is somebody second the motion to suspend the rules as I?
Actually, somebody should make a motion, and then it gets seconded. You don't make motions.
All right. Can
Second.
somebody make that motion?
I make a motion that we take the remainder of the agenda and we move it to our next regular meeting to add it to the agenda at that point in time.
That's not what I was looking for.
Oh.
There were
I
four
thought you
items.
said
that
there's
the
four
town manager-
items.
Can we just, I'm going to turn to Deputy Mayor Paterna, if that's okay, Councilor Pendleton?
I'm done.
All right.
I'm off. Goodbye. Yeah.
I'd like to move that we table some of the items with the exception of item 13G, I, J, and M, right?
And the executive session on the attorney.
And the executive session on the town attorney.
Is there a second? I see Councilor King's light.
Yeah, I just have a question. Does it not benefit us to have the resolutions for the appointment of positions so that they don't get in the way of any potential meetings between now and our next council meeting?
Which is 2 weeks from now?
I don't.
I mean, can we do this? Can we pass what we just said, do the 4, let's see what time it is, and see if people have any interest in
That's fine.
adding something back?
That's fine.
Is that all right?
That's fine.
All right, all those in favor? Aye. Aye. Anybody opposed? All right, passes unanimously, thank you. All right, so 13G, Councilor Fitzgerald.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Resolution approving a flag flying request to fly the Public Works flag to commemorate National Public Works Week from May 18th through May 22nd, 2026. Be it resolved that the South Windsor Town Council hereby approves a request to fly the American Public Works Association flag from May 18th, 2026 through May 22nd, 2026, and asks the town manager, Michael Maniscalco, to have the flag raised on the flagpole at the town hall on Monday, May 18th, 2026, and lowered on Friday, May 22nd, 2026, in honor of National Public Works Week as shown in Exhibit D.
Second.
All right. Any questions, concerns? All those in favor? Aye. Aye. Anybody
Aye.
opposed? Any abstentions? Passes unanimously. Thank you. 13I, Councilor Delnicki.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Resolution reappointing Clifton Larson Allen as the town auditor for fiscal year ending June 30th, 2026, at a fee of $81,000. Be it resolved that the South Windsor Town Council reappoints the firm of Clifton Larson Allen, CLA, of West Hartford, Connecticut, to audit the books and accounts of the town of South Windsor as provided in the general statutes of the state of Connecticut. And be it further resolved that the fees agreed upon are $81,000 to audit fiscal year end June 30th, 2026, as recommended by the Audit Committee at their March 13th, 2026 meeting.
All right, any questions, concerns? Seeing none, all those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Passes unanimously. 13J, Counselor Delnicki.
Thank you. Resolution setting a public hearing to receive citizen input regarding the town of South Windsor's participation with the Connecticut Municipal Development Authority as a member municipality. Be it resolved that the South Windsor Town Council hereby sets Monday, April 20th, 2026 at 8:30 p.m. in the council chambers of the South Windsor Town Hall, 1540 Sullivan Avenue, South Windsor, Connecticut, as a time and place for a public hearing to receive citizen input regarding the town of South Windsor's participation with the Connecticut Municipal Development Authority as a member municipality.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right, Mr. Maniscalco, can you give us a little understanding of what this is?
Sure. So, we've talked a number of times about the Connecticut Municipal Development Authority. They offer low interest rate loans for developers as well as potential grants for municipalities. In order to join that organization, we have to hold a public hearing, and then the council would pass a resolution shortly after that. After we've announced our desire to join the organization, they will endeavor upon what's going to be probably about a 6-month review of our planning and zoning regulations, as well as our community itself, to identify a zone that they would work within.
And do I recall that the type of funding that they might be able to provide for something like town center improvements that were being discussed? Is that the kind of project?
Right. So everything that they fund has to be associated with a community center. That's their big thing. It's got to have public transit. It's got to have all kinds of options available to it. The grants for municipalities may help go to pay for things like sidewalks, street improvements, sewer, water, other items like that, if we were to apply for them. And then businesses or developers in those zones would be eligible for low interest rate loans. We're talking about 1-2% interest rates where they could get a loan for their actual development.
Okay. All right. Any questions, concerns? All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Any abstentions? Passes unanimously. 13M, Counselor Roulette.
Resolution approving refund batch number 16 for 10 refunds totaling $5,579.12. Be it resolved that the South Windsor Town Council hereby approves the 10 tax refunds, the total of said refunds being $5,579.12 as more fully described in Exhibit B.
Second.
All right. Any questions, concerns? All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Anybody
Aye.
opposed? Any abstentions? Passes unanimously. All right. Given the time, do we want to go directly into executive session, or would somebody like to suspend the rules to add something back? Are we good for tonight? All right. Looks like we're good. All right. So for the public who might be watching, we're going to end the meeting from executive session. So for all intents and purposes, we're done for tonight. Thank you.
We have to take a vote to go into executive session, and then we got to have a discussion.
Sorry, my fault.
I'd like to move that we go into executive session, Mr. Mayor,
Yep.
to discuss the pursuant to Connecticut General Statutes 1-206A, discussion town attorney RFP candidates, inviting town manager Michael Maniscalco.
Okay. Is there a second? And then we'll have discussion.
Second.
All right. Councilor Delnicki, and then I'll go to Councilor Cordero.
Oh, I don't have a question on that.
All right. Councilor Cordero? All right. All right. All those in favor? Aye. Anybody opposed? All right. Passes unanimously. Now we're in executive session. Thank you.
So-
We voted on B, we have to vote on 17C.
We didn't, we said we're not doing that. When we said what we were,
No, you said you were doing C.
no, I did not.
You never took C off the list.
No, but when we said we were suspending the rules and we were going to do 5 things, we listed the 5, and it was only one executive session. Because of the time. So my intent was not to do the one on the update on the court case, given the time.
So we're not doing C.
That was my intent when we suspended the rules.
Mr. Mayor, I move that we delete item C, pending claims or pending litigation, and delete that from the executive session.
You need to suspend the rules first to delete an item because it's already been approved.
Gotta go backwards.
Okay, gotta go backwards, okay.
Could you do it all in one motion? So make a motion to suspend the rules and remove item C,
Okay.
if that's
Mr.
acceptable.
Mayor, I'd like to make a motion that we suspend the rules and we delete item C, pending claims or pending litigation discussion from the proposed executive session.
All right, is there a second?
Second.
All right. Any questions, concerns? All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Passage unanimously? Are we now?
Yeah. Now we're good.
All right, thank you.